Welcome to podcast number 1, Swing with Life, with me, Andy Acosta, my friends Brian Levinos and Eddie Saenz. Some people listening may know me as Andy Walker, as that is my stage name, and all my social media can be found under Andy Walker. A lot of artists that I looked up to growing up, I learned had stage names. So when I knew I wanted to get into the industry, I found it necessary to create a stage name for myself. Now moving forward with this podcast, I wanted to use my real name, as this podcast is not superficial. We talk about world events, what's happening in our nation, but also that we're trying to understand what's going on in society and what's going on in our nation. I hope that everyone will get at least one thing out of this introductory episode where we have a conversation of many topics. It's not really directed anywhere yet. We will move forward with that as we progress through every episode. This is just so everybody can get to know who we are, what we're thinking, and how we perceive the world at this time. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode 1 of Swinging with Life.
Don't forget to color the denim blue.
So what were you saying, Eddie, about this particular friend?
Damn it. Are we rolling right now? Is that?
Oh yeah, we've been rolling for a couple minutes now.
Well,
I wish I would start
point in
earlier.
holding back now.
But
You've already spilled the beans.
No, she's very much a 20-year-old, and it shines right through her 20-year-oldness.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say we were all 20 years old at some point.
Yeah, and I remember we were talking about that last night when we were at the bar. Because you're like, I was like, well, we're all 20 at some point. I was like, it's probably a little shit when I was 20 years old.
See, so maybe it's up to you to bring her up to 25-year-old speed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's up to you.
I guess. I don't know. It's just one of those things that, like, you know, like when you're like at different places in your life, you know what I mean? Kind of like know what you want.
Yeah.
Like out of your life. And I feel like when you're 20, you don't think about that kind of shit. At least I didn't.
Fair. Do you think, given what you have gone through now, that you would find that perfect girl that's like in the same spot of life as you?
Man,
because what are you looking for as far as that goes? Because you brought up that, so I'm curious as to like how far you're willing to go to find that.
Well, I don't know, because there's still a lot of stuff that I want to do with my life that doesn't necessarily involve someone else being there for it. Like, I guess in particular, a like relationship, you know. But I can't imagine that there's a lot of girls that would want to be with a broke, doesn't know if he's going to eat today musician. So.
But you substitute.
But cool. I substitute teach to lack for that income. Or to support that income.
Supplemental income.
Supplement, that's the word. Supplement that income.
One thing that I wanted to bring up, because I kind of gave Eddie a breakdown yesterday about the drop shipping, if you want to go into depth. So you can get his, because I was telling you about the e-commerce thing that he was doing last night, and I want to get into that. So he was explaining it to me earlier, and I feel like he can explain it better. And then if you have any questions, ask him. He'd be able to answer them better.
Explain.
Yeah, so I've been looking lately into like it first started off with like private labeling, which is basically taking a product straight from the manufacturer that they've already got like a whole production line for. They already have like all the processes down and mass producing these products. So all you do as a private label like business owner is that you create a brand for that product, and you buy these products at wholesale prices straight from the manufacturer, and your brand, excuse me, is what adds value to these products. So then you go ahead and resell these products with your brand, your stamp, your label on it, and you make a profit. So that's how it started. And then the whole drop shipping thing is basically to streamline the operations. So when I first was looking into private labeling, it required the owner to buy all of the bulk of the items, and then you store them in your own warehouse. You have to keep up your own inventory, and then you ship them to your customers. So then what drop shipping does is basically it connects your store, your online store, with the manufacturer. So as soon as a customer comes to your store and buys the product, there's some like a type of automation that will buy the product from the manufacturer, ship it to your customer, and you keep the profit. Like, you're charged for the products like wholesale price, and then the customer pays you your selling price, and you keep that profit. You never have to touch the product. You never have to deal with the shipping. A lot of what the operations that you're like skipping on will have to be diverted to your presence in like your online presence and the customer service, basically.
Interesting.
So yeah, I've been looking a lot into that, and I've been doing a lot of research on different ways how people do it. A while ago, right before Andy picked me up, actually, I did like a very basic drop shipping. It's a little manual. It's not as automated as what I explained it, but basically I found the same two products on eBay and on Amazon, but the one on eBay was almost half as cheap as the one on Amazon. So what I did is I created a listing for that product on Amazon, and I don't have the product. So if that product sells on Amazon, I'm going to turn around and buy it on eBay, and I'm going to I'll put my billing information, but I'll have the shipping information for my customer on Amazon, and I'm just going to put that into the shipping information. So my seller on eBay will actually ship that to my customer on Amazon, and they're going to charge me for that like $16, and I'm going to charge Amazon buyer $30. So I get to keep the profits, $14 profit, and I don't have to do anything.
Okay.
So yeah, doing all this research, I got a little anxious, and I was like, I want to do something. So that was my first basic like drop shipping experience. So we'll see how that goes. I have a couple listings on Amazon, and I recently sold one like little figurine for like $30, shipped it, and that was super easy, and that kind of got me like on a little like kick, like dang, like I could
you
do
got
this.
a little dopamine rush.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we'll see how this drop shipping listing goes, because I don't have the product. Yeah, I don't have it. I've never seen it. I've never touched it, but we'll see how it goes, and then just move on from there.
How bad do you think any rebuttal will be if the quality isn't what like maybe promote? Because like, there's a product that you bought that we're not going to talk about. We're not going to label it, but it's a product you bought, you paid X amount, and when you got it, it's like, man, like it's not that good. It's not as good as I wished it was, or it's not as good as they promoted it online. And if you're going to be the marketing, basically the third-party marketing for this company, you know, it's going to fall on you because they're going to buy it from you. So,
I guess I'll ask, like, are you referring to my watered down drop shipping, or if I were to go full-fledged with creating the brand?
Well, you've already started your watered down, so it's going to transition from the watered down to a full-fledged.
So with the watered down, I did think about it, and I did say, since I don't have the product, I haven't seen it, what happens if my customer isn't satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
I would eat up the cost, basically. That's my risk. So I'll do a full refund, and I'll ask them to return the product to me. And if I think I can resell that product, then I'll do it. Yeah, if there's nothing wrong, I'll just resell it. Now, if this was like a full-fledged company, my full brand, there's a lot of there's a lot of processes that take place to kind of ensure that the customer is satisfied. So you're gonna have to go through a process of getting samples of the product, quality control, making sure that everything is up to your expectations, and then keep up with the manufacturers to make sure that they're keeping up with those parameters. And that's why I said, like, if you're avoiding, or you're not involved in all of the manufacturing operations and the shipping logistics and all that, your focus is going to be on your presence and your customer service. So that's where you have to be available to the customers, to their complaints, to their suggestions, to their claims, like, even more. And you'll have the time because you're not so focused on the logistics side of it. So
one question I want to bring up, because Eddie brought this up yesterday as I first mentioned it to him. What would keep the customer from buying directly from the manufacturer?
Well, really, there's nothing that keeps anybody from buying straight from the manufacturer. Like, today's day and age, like, it's almost a flat playing field. Anybody has access to these manufacturers and suppliers. So the only thing that keeps the customer from buying directly from the manufacturer is the customer themselves, because they can go online and research and find these suppliers and manufacturers. But really, what e-commerce, or at least like kind of this little niche of e-commerce sellers who they market to, are basically impulse buyers who are not going to do their research. They're going to see a product they like, they're going to be okay with the price, and they're just going to buy it. And it's going to be shipped directly to them. They don't have to deal with the manufacturers or suppliers. They don't have to wait for the shipping from, let's say, your suppliers in somewhere in Asia. They don't have to deal with all that. You've already taken care of all that for them. And if they're okay with the the product and the price, then they're going to go ahead and do it. And really, it's on them if they want to do the research and buy it at a wholesale price.
Well, damn, it sounds pretty, like, bulletproof then. Okay.
Well, to an extent, I guess when you take care of the weak spots, yeah.
And one thing that Brian brought up that I wanted to bring up with Eddie was, like, the fact that when we shop, we do look for quality. We do want to make sure we get what we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with what's the word I was going to use? That comes with wanting to do the research, as opposed to the majority of the public right now would rather just buy it. If they see it, and they're going to just buy it without saying, okay, can I find this book cheaper somewhere else? And while a lot of things have kind of I think a lot of things have mainstreamed to, like, solid pricing for the most part, unless you do in-depth research. But if you look for 4 different sellers from the same website, you're going to find the same price. It's competition. Whereas the eBay to Amazon thing, you're going to find discrepancies in that. And if you're willing to do that, then you'd find.
I guess it makes sense, because I was just thinking now, like, what I would do in this kind of situation that I guess would fit me. So, for instance, if I'm at Barnes & Noble and I'm looking for vinyl, because I'm audiophile, I guess, now, which I never thought I'd be, but anyway. So I'm into the vinyl thing. So if I want to go to Barnes & Noble, find a Guy Clark record, because I know I'm not going to find it at the local record shop that only has, like, 70s, 80s classic rock and nothing new, or nothing from Guy Clark. And even though it's like a $20 or $25 vinyl, no one else has it, I'm going to go ahead and get it there. Or let's say that another record shop does have it, and maybe has it cheaper, maybe has it in better condition or whatever, but I'm a super Guy Clark obsessed dude, so as soon as I find the vinyl, don't care how much it is, where I'm getting it from, I'm going to get the vinyl. So I guess in a way like that, does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's what you're comfortable paying for that product, and it's your perceived value.
Well, I pay anything for a Guy Clark vinyl.
Exactly. So when you see it, when you find it, then you're going to buy it. And that's kind of what the market that I would try to target. People who are going to see the product that I'm offering, and they're going to see the price, and either they're not going to care, they're going to be comfortable enough to buy it. They're not going to go and, look elsewhere for anything cheaper. Maybe their perceived value of my product is already low enough. Like, not their perceived value is up here, and then my selling point is a little lower than their perceived value, and they're going to think they're winning. They're going to, like, they're getting, like, the best deal.
Yeah, I found the best. I just got the best deal, because they know what they're willing to pay for something, anything.
Speaking of good deals, man, like 10 boxes of pastaroni for like $1 each.
That was life for 3 weeks. It was great. was a good time, man. It was a good time.
I'm so sick of pastaroni. If I ever see pastaroni again, I'm gonna vomit.
It was good though. I mean, I don't know. I brought because I had never had pastaroni.
I've never had it.
Dude, okay. I never had it till we went to Nashville.
We did it for like 3 weeks.
We did it for 3 weeks.
It wasn't even like a week. It was it was a long 3 weeks
Now,
of pastaroni.
did you make it the same way every
I
time?
tried to change it up. I mean, because you can buy there's like pastaroni with like garlic and whatever, and then
There's like garlic parmesan or some cool thing like that, and then the fettuccine alfredo, and then there's like a cheesy one, and then there's like an Italian herbs one or something like that, and then like garlic and olive oil, or I don't know.
something like yeah, something like that. So with that, I made like chicken one day and then put like broccoli, like actual, like I say we did broccoli and cheese pastaroni. Well, I'd make actual broccoli to add to like,
Right.
you know, I'd steam broccoli and whatever. And I'll never forget when we first went to Kroger's and Eddie's like, man, you gonna make something or like what are you doing? Like he had no clue what I was doing. It was great.
I had no clue what you had up your sleeve. If you didn't have that up your sleeve, we would have just been eating like pastaroni and like bare naked chicken, just
like that,
with no seasoning on it.
And I was like, no, man, we need some chicken breast, we need some chicken, like whatever meat, and we need some beef meat, and it freaked him out when I made lemon pepper. I use actual lemons and I use actual pepper instead of like a concoction already pre-made at the store. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, lemon pepper, bro. Lemon pepper.
Chef motherfucking Walker.
It's so good.
Oh, man.
That was awesome, man.
That was a really fun trip, except for the girl who told me she loved me too when I didn't say I loved her.
Oh, wow.
That's what it's all about, though, man. You know, living to make bad decisions to have good stories. I don't know.
You brought that up yesterday, and it's like, oh man, how far does it need to go?
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree, but it's like, man, like, I feel like, okay, and now we're good. As millennials, it's like there's that tug that we have to deal with because we're the millennials, as opposed to the older generation, the generation after us, But it seems like the millennials at this point in time is like, oh no, we have to be like squared away, and if you're not, then you know, get a job.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, and I want to understand, but
Yeah.
I guess we're just not there yet.
I was working 3 in Nashville just to be able to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you paid for a record,
And then paying for a record, yeah.
and Brian's been working he's been working in the bank system through like second half of college until
Yeah, like,
I mean through now. I mean you're still there
probably going on 4 years since I've been
in a
banking.
bank.
Man, something about like those shitty jobs that you have to take though, those are like just the most fun sometimes though. Because like, so I used to work the security job, the venue security, so I used to
Right.
work with this company called Access Security. And they're a third-party security company, so venues around Nashville would hopefully hire them out to place workers at their venue to run security.
Right.
And so this place that I used to go to a lot to do that was the Mercy Lounge, which is just a badass, like, 3-part venue. It's like, it's got a smaller venue called the High Watt, and then the Mercy Lounge is the middle-sized one, and then the Cannery Ballroom is the third biggest. Or the biggest one, rather, the third one. So there was like always something like really, really cool going on. There's always like a lot of work at that venue. And man, just you see some fucking characters at concerts, man. Especially like I like always like got stuck checking IDs because I'm skinny as shit and can't defend my life for nothing. So
It's because you need that jiu-jitsu.
yeah, I need to do the jiu-jitsu or just eat some protein and go actually lift a dumbbell, instead of just running 2 miles every day and getting slimmer. But man, my favorite was like checking these IDs, and this one kid comes up with this like just god awful fake ID, and it's always Florida. I don't know why it's like always Florida or Rhode Island.
It's probably the same dealer, like the same seller.
It's possible, but it's like such a giveaway because like the plastic's peeling off, and it's like the card is like super thick and not slick at all.
Right.
And like there's none of that like the hologram stuff, that's it's like legit or whatever. The watermark, I think is what it's called. Anyway, so it's just god awful fake ID from Florida. And well, like me and this dude went to school together, like went to college together. He was like a couple years below me in school. And so, but for whatever reason, like we were just acquaintances, but for whatever reason, man, I guess he was just trying to get through the door, like, you know, like to be able to drink or whatever. And so he's acting like, oh, dude, like you're my fucking best friend, man. Like I haven't seen you in forever. How you been? You still writing songs and what, you know, and doing all that. And I was, yeah, man, yeah, everything's good. I mean, whatever. And I'm like checking his ID, and I'm like at this point in the job, I've been working like I guess almost a year doing that. And so I was really comfortable catching fakes and calling people out on it. So I just like look at the ID, like instantly tell it's fake. And then I look back up at him and I go, I hope you didn't pay too much for this. And he just like jumps back like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, no, it's my ID. And I was like, no, it's not. And I was like, he's like, I'll let you in if you give me your real one. And then so he brought out his real one, and then I let him in, and then he just like flicked me off every time I saw him for the rest of the night. Yeah.
But you let him in.
Yeah, I let him in. I shouldn't have though, but I was nice enough to do that, I guess.
Well, okay, so he gave you a fake ID. He showed you his real ID. Was it 21 and over only, or what?
No,
or
it was,
what was it that? What was it that you asked
question.
for? Yeah. What is that?
No, I think I'm pretty sure it was like an 18 and up show, but they have so I mean they mark you with like, you know, X's and stuff, or I would mark you in X's if you were underage, but you had, you know, or under 21. I mean,
right,
but you were, you know, 18 or older, old enough to get in the show. Yeah.
Okay. That was my question, because you took his fake. He still presented with a real one. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah, that was good for clarification. But yeah, and then the greatest part though, I mean, like this guy's like, you know, I started off checking IDs like at the beginning, and then my supervisor, who is like one of my best friends in the entire world, who would really be badass if he could be here right now talking with us, but was supervising that night, and so he had me roaming for a little bit, and then every time I ran into this kid, he just like flicked me the bird, man, just so hard. And I was, whatever, man.
I'm gonna transition down to what happened last night.
Ooh.
Do you remember what happened last night at the end?
I don't.
Because I was like, man,
I'm pretty sure I almost got my ass beat for no good reason though.
Well, you wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have let it happen, but we got pretty close.
I'm pretty sure I like said something really stupid. I don't even know what the guy. Okay, what did he say? Just
Well, it wasn't even. Honestly, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. 'Cause even what you said, I mean, it was a sarcastic remark back, but it's like, to me, I don't know. Okay, let me just go through it. So we're outside of Hillbillies, and then we're there with our two female friends, and it's me and Eddie. And then female one says, "Oh, I thought he was this age," and this drunk ass guy comes like, "Well, I'm 16," and then Eddie's like, "Yeah, me too." So then that drunk guy keeps walking. Takes about 5 steps before he comprehended what Eddie said, and he turns around, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, here we go." And if there's a video on this right now, you guys would see me like I was ready to go. I was like just ready, because I'm like, worst case scenario, I'm not gonna let anything happen to Eddie. Like, we're good, like whatever. And then, but I mean, in my eyes, he was so drunk that he didn't finish comprehending what you said. So while he heard it and he turned back and he acknowledged it, he turned around and then kept going to his car. And then he's a leaning alcoholic, so he's just leaning.
The best kind.
And I'm like, he's good. Now, funny thing is that when we were taking off already, his name happened to be Justin, because when we were passing by, I guess his friends, he had like 3 other friends. I was like, that could have been very bad if he would have charged, and then I would have to defend you. And then if his friends would have seen it, that might have not been very good. But at least he was drunk enough. It ended. I hope he got home safe. You know, no. We're all, you know, having a good time last night, so it's not a big deal. But
man, I feel bad now. I hope he didn't like. I mean, I was just being my usual sarcastic, like I'm just having fun, drunken self. But yeah, I wouldn't dare start anything being my size.
I love how we just got finished with.
Sorry, dude. It was just a joke, man.
It was all good, but yeah, I was.
It's not like I said, your face is ugly.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't like anything like detrimental to like, oh my god, like you hurt my feelings.
Maybe he turned around to verify whether you really were 16 or not.
He might have been, but man, he was just lit. He probably had a good time. You know, him and his friends were out. Like we were out with our friends, and me and Eddie were out hanging out.
And then me being an asshole, I ruined his night.
And then this guy's like, and then guy number one's like, what? And I was like, oh, just run. Just run. Go.
Oh, man.
It's a good time, though.
It was a good time. I like to be lighthearted about it all, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like if you're not lighthearted, or if you have a thin skin, like, just kind of gets in the way of life. No, like,
Yeah, man, and
Keep
that's
going.
kind of like why like I felt like safe making that remark back, because I was like, oh, we're all just joking about like being 16 or
Yeah.
whatever. So, I don't know.
yeah, I think it's the people that take things like very personally, or just get offended real easily by remarks like that have really no malintent. They're the ones that kind of like live a more kind of bitter, angry life. And what do you get out of that? Like, we're all just here having a good time.
The funny thing is, like, we're gonna bring up ego,
Mm.
because it's like, I feel like when you get drunk, like, ego comes out the most. But in this case, where some people let it get in the way as opposed to like letting it go, like you're saying, like,
Right.
having fun, having a good time, and then like that one person just like goes over the edge. It's like, man, chill out, man, chill out. Like, we're all drunk, and but the thing is, if we're all drunk, I guess we're not all coherent to make the best decisions.
Speak for yourself. Ah.
Good.
No, but you're right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's. I'm just trying to understand the millennial human being.
No, but okay. So I'll bring this up. So no, you're absolutely right. That like ego comes out a ton more when you're drunk. So let me put it to you from the perspective that I was in last night with this girl, and it was kind of okay. Like, she's being kind of quiet, and I'm like, well, okay. So let me break this down for everybody listening and for Brian. Yeah, and everybody listening, including you, Brian.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, I wasn't listening before that.
So, okay, so the way this was going to be set up was me and this girl were supposed to go to, like, Last Pocket or, like, some of the thing, like, just, like, one-on-one, like, go shoot some pool, drink some beers, whatever, and hang out. So she ends up being like, I don't really want to go to Last Pocket. I want to go to Hills and, like, dance and have fun, whatever. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, and I'm pretty sure I expressed to her, like, I mean, I wasn't really, like feeling that 'cause Hills gets really loud, and you know, I was like, I want to be able to talk, but, I mean, if that's where you want to go, I mean, yeah, we can go. And so it's settled. We're going to go to Hills, and then she texts me later. She's like, hey, he's like, do you have, like, a friend that you can bring with you? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I thought she was, like, asking me if I had friends. I was like, yeah, I have friends. But anyway, and then she's like...
she called you, right? Like,
Oh,
was this
that's
that
right,
she called,
yeah,
or, like, was this
yeah.
over text that she's like, oh,
Well,
you have a friend?
she, okay, so the way it actually went down, I won't lie about it this time. So the way it actually went down was that she says, like, hey, he's like, you got, like, a minute? Like, I need to, like, talk to you about something on the phone. And I was like, I've been writing a song for, like, 5 hours. So, I mean, like, at that point, I was like, yeah, screw this. Like, yeah, I have time to talk on the
take a
phone.
break.
So, so I call her, and she's like, yeah, it's like, do you have, like, a friend you can bring tonight? And I was, yeah, I've got friends. Like why? And then she's like, oh, well, I have a friend, like, I want to bring. He's like, oh, you want me to hook my friend up with your friend, and this to be like a double date scenario? She's like, yeah, and I was like, okay, well, let me hang up and let me get on it. She's, all right. Yeah. So I get a hold of this dude and Andy here, and I'm like, yeah, there's a situation. It's like, you in or you out? And then after a lot of convincing, he's like, okay, I'm in.
Well, I had worked two shifts of two different things, and I was just okay. At the end, I was just hungry. I was like, okay, I just need to eat, because I feed myself a lot.
There you go.
So, like, if you give me some food, I'm good to go. He got some food. I was like, I'm good. Boom, let's go.
I'm glad you came, because I probably would have got my ass beat if you were there. Anyway, and so me and Andy go to Hillbillies, waiting on, like, to meet up with this girl and her friend, and we're gonna meet up at 10 o'clock, which is kind of early for me, actually, because I don't usually get to Hills till like 11:30. But anyway, we're gonna meet there at 10, so we get there a little earlier, and we're playing some pool. And this girl texts me like, hey, like, my friend is, like, not answering the phone. I'm supposed to go pick her up or whatever, and she lives, like, super far away, and, like, I live in Mission, then I gotta go all the way over here, and then I'll come all the way back to Hillbillies, drive her home at the end of the night, whatever. So she has, like, a lot of driving to do, and she's complaining about it, and this is, I guess, reasonable. But so her friend's not answering the phone, so she doesn't know what to do. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, shit.
Yeah.
But so I guess, like, her friend was kind of feeling sick, and I guess had taken, like, some Advil or Motrin or something to, like, suppress her cough or whatever. And she mixed it with Jack Daniels that she was pre-gaming.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, we all know how that goes.
Way more interesting last night.
Yeah. probably.
Man, it really would
And I
have.
don't know how yet, but there's many variables that would have
Yeah.
changed.
So, getting to the point here finally. So her friend is just like nowhere to be found, right? And like is not answering her phone.
Right.
So this girl's like, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, it's like, I mean, like, don't drive all the way to your like, friend's house or whatever. It's like, let's just come to the bar or whatever and hang out. Me and Andy are already here. So she comes to the bar and then it's just like, okay, it's like I've got to entertain this girl. I've got to entertain Andy. It's like I'm over here and like stuck in the middle, man. And it's like, I was like, well, I'm like trying to like keep conversation going, but at the same time, me and Andy are like finishing up our like third round of pool or whatever. We're like trying to
Right.
split the score. We like split
Yeah,
a
we had
game
1-1,
each. So.
yeah.
And it's like, we're just in this awkward scenario pretty much. So I guess like going back to the tying in with the ego thing, I was over here like in my own head, I'm just kind of feeling like retrospectively very egotistical because I'm just like, well, if she wants to talk, if this girl wants to join in the conversation, like I'm not going to try to like, like entertain her into the conversation all night.
Right.
Like, join the conversation, be present or don't be present. I'm not going to force you to
Fair.
be one either way. And I don't want to force anyone to be in there either way,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, we are kind of on a date, and maybe I should have taken a little more initiative in the talking points. So I mean, but then the night just kind of ends up with her frustrated, and then I'm just kind of over here on my high horse, like, hey man, like if you're not into it, like like.
It seems this is like, I don't want to call it a problem, but this is, I guess, like a small hurdle that can easily be jumped over versus external factors that are just way too high to get over or
Yeah.
to overcome. So it's definitely not a bad hurdle, we'll call it that. It's fixable, manageable.
Super. And at the end of the day, it's not that it doesn't matter to me, but it's very minuscule in terms of like the grander picture of my life currently.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just one of the things, if we don't get dinner or it doesn't work out, whatever, man. Like,
It's no big deal.
yeah.
At least for the moment. That's one thing that you had brought up to me because I didn't see it like that. As far as having priorities in your life, so you have priority 1, 2, and 3. Then you have the personal life that you're trying to at least work on. Where you have your priorities. And right now our priorities is make a good living, enjoy what we do, and then live well with in general. And then our personal life, which would be having a girlfriend eventually. Hopefully, I mean I know I want a family eventually,
Yeah.
but the way Brian put it was, finding that girl that will become a part of your priority list. Someone that you are able to, besides having a conversation, but I don't know, have her as a priority. That's one way I can think about it.
Yeah, 'cause
keep going on that.
Because I feel that, like, at least now, I personally feel that, a girlfriend isn't so much of a priority. Like, I'm just kind of focusing on work and other, small ventures, like, I guess what I mentioned earlier on in this conversation. So I'm kind of focusing on other things, and really a girl or a romantic relationship is kind of secondary to all of that. So I think in a conversation that I was having with Andy, we were just talking about how secondary like a love life is right now, and I think that when you're ready to settle down, that a specific relationship will become a priority, and it'll finally be above, if not equal to, all these things that I'm prioritizing now. So if this whole little small business venture, if it grows to something bigger and it becomes a much larger priority, hopefully at that point, or whenever, I'll have somebody that is on the same level as that priority, if not greater, because I'd hate to say that like my business is the same as having like a wife or a girlfriend. It varies.
Right, and that's
Yeah,
that's a
it
very
is.
interesting, because it's like it's 3 different parts of your life that are coming at the same time to you, right? It'd be your love life, personal life, or love life, sorry, business, and then yourself. Your own well-being. So when you're trying to balance all that, I remember seeing like these diagrams where we're talking about like when we were in college, like a lot of people would post, if you're like have a social life, study, or go to sleep, and like you can only choose 2, and it's like we're like right in the middle of that still, but we're transitioning because now we're out of college, we're not having to deal with that. Now I say, I mean, sleep is now minuscule. I guess that would be the word. It's not on top of my priority list for sure. Because I know there's I mean, I do get a lot of people like, oh my god, you don't sleep. No, I sleep plenty. I just sleep at odd times. A lot of people are like, oh, like, yeah, I wake up at 4 o'clock, but I'll take a nap. Like, I'm not a robot. Like, I'm gonna take a nap. You know, I'm gonna do what I need to do in the morning. Just because I do well early in the morning, middays rough, and then at night I can work it through the night, and then get a few hours, and then start it back up again. But just finding that balance, and now adding the third element, you know, and then there's some people that don't think, I mean, or maybe that never get married. You know, it's not that they don't think it, but they just get to a certain point where it's like, man, like, I'm 40, and you know, it's kind of like, okay, this is where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning once, this is pre this past experience with a girl, that you're like, man, like, I don't think I'll ever get married. And then like this thing happened, and it's like
You're right.
180.
I did say that.
And I was and I just mentioned it because it's a very interesting thing, that a moment done, and your mind's totally changed because you're considering it now, as opposed to before where it was like, no, I don't think so. Like, fine, that you've met these girls and whatnot, and you gave them a chance or whatever, and then you get to this, and it's like, oh my god, like maybe it will happen, you know. And that's where I think I told you, like, you know, to for sure give it a chance, but I guess never say never.
But like, you know what I realized, like, with this girl that I just like fell head over heels for. I mean, like the more and more we like went on, you know, our dates and whatever, like the more it just kind of like conversation started kind of dwindling, very faintly. Not like in a huge way, but just like each time was kind of just like,
A little bit less.
okay, we've kind of, maybe it's just like a running out of things to talk about. Like, okay, we covered a lot of ground.
All the small talk.
Yeah, but you know, now I guess that at that point it just starts developing into the you know, like I guess fitting in the rest of the puzzle pieces of where you fall into my life, where I fall into hers, or whatever. It's that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, things kind of started dwindling down, and then it all kind of, you know, just it you know, it ended with you know her having some cold feet about the situation, you know, and she's kind of thinking like, oh, I think I kind of fell into this too fast. I kind of need some space, and I'm just over here like, nah, you know.
Yeah.
But then, you know, then it made me realize, like, well, no, she's right. We kind of did. And then, you know, take a step back and look at the surrounding circumstances of her life and then my life and what we both got going on. It's just like, yeah, there's no way it's gonna.
At least not right now.
You know, at least not right now. Yeah, there's no way it's gonna work.
That's another interesting, like, as far as like the conversation dwindling down, what I was gonna say is what I found for myself. Like, I don't know how often, like, because you guys at the beginning, when you guys were first learning about each other, you guys would talk all the time, finding out all the small things about each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it started dwindling down. But I feel like the more you text, which I'm gonna bring up technology, the more you text, the less you have to talk about anyways. Because if you're talking throughout the day, what more do you have to say at night? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I know I had a recent experience last weekend when I got back from San Antonio. And we were out or whatever. And it was me and Brian, some friends and whatever, and we're out. And then they're having conversation. Brian's having conversation. Everybody's mingling. It's great. And like, I enjoyed being there, but I had nothing good. I had nothing, not good. I had nothing
to contribute.
Yeah, I had nothing to contribute. It's like, cool, I'm listening. Like, I understand what this person's talking about. I know what, you know, because we've all been texting throughout the day. So it's like, I didn't know what else to say.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're also kind of in that middle. And that's one thing that Simon Sinek brought up as far as the technology thing and the instant gratification. And with that, you know, once you learn everything, or the majority of everything about everybody, things change. And I wonder how you can spark that up. Like, if you've gone to that point to where you like, you know, you like the person, okay, you like what they're about, they're interested in a lot of the same things, and then the small talk starts dwindling out. How could you re-spark that, I guess?
I think at that point you create new things together to talk about.
Yeah.
And maybe the whole small talk dwindling down is kind of like a marker for, like, hey, let's do things together. Let's create our own, you know, our conversations, or let's create what's the word? Let's just create, like,
Your own
more
memories.
talk. Yeah, together. Not like you've already shared what you've done. You've already shared what you've done. Now let's do things together and talk about that. And in doing things together and interacting more, things will come up to talk about, like that maybe you didn't think about before or that never came up before.
Man, that was enlightening. I feel enlightened. I've never thought about that.
I was gonna, when you started talking about your dwindling down, I was like, well, that's kind of where you make things together.
That's true. That's a good point. And going back to, Andy, what you were saying about the texting, instant gratification, and you're running out of things to talk about very fast because of all that. So my mother, who is the smartest person that I never ever listened to, even though she's always right somehow. Like when I initially told her about this girl, I'm like, oh, like I'm crazy about her. Like it's nuts. I've never felt this way before. And she's like, okay, just make sure you take it slow. Don't talk too much. You know, like don't see each other more than once a week or whatever. Like let it, you know, like let it kindle. Like let it grow. And I'm just kind of like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it eventually gets to be to the point where you're like, yeah, we have talked too much. It kind of sucks. And then you're just sitting there, you know? But
Twiddling your thumbs, waiting for a text.
yeah. Well, the other thing my mom was saying about that is, you know, like good things develop over time. They have to develop over time. And my response to her was, how in the hell is this supposed to, like, is anything supposed to develop over time anymore in the world, the day and age that, you know, technology-wise, yeah. It's like the day and age we live in now, things are moving way too fast, and everything, like, kind of needs to move fast, almost, if that makes sense.
Maybe because so many things are moving fast, so if you're not on that train...
If you're not on pace, yeah.
Yeah, if you're not on there.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, I hate texting. Like, I loathe it. I'd much rather have, like face-to-face interaction, you know, I guess as anyone would, right?
Or should.
Yeah, or should.
Yeah.
But I cannot stand text messaging. Like, when I'm, like, home and, like, you know, trying to book us gigs, or, like, I'm trying to, like, write songs or plan out this record release or whatever, like, I got, like, stuff to do, man. And then on top of that, or I'll be, like, you know, subbing for the afternoon or for the morning for the day, and then come over, you know, to my other job and teach music lessons all afternoon into the evening, get home, eat dinner, just want to write another song and then go to bed. So it's like, you know, I was like, I don't really have time to be, you know, glued to my phone. I'm already, like, glued to my phone more than I want to be, you know, so
right.
It's...
I know what I try to do now, and I get this from Tim Ferriss, which everybody needs to check out Tim Ferriss' podcast. He always checks his emails after 10 a.m. Or at least at one point he had mentioned in one of his podcasts, like he tries to, you know, he suggests or something that he does is, you know, leave that till 10. Let's say 10 a.m. So what I try to do with my cell phone is I let the alarm wake me up, but then I make sure not to open any apps or anything for an hour. My first hour of being awake, I'll get along with my day, or I'll make some food or whatever. By the time you know an hour's passed, it's like, man, like, then you try it for 2 hours, and then you try it for more. And now I feel it. Now I don't do it for that long, because like eventually, like, you know, Eddie will text me or Brian will text me. We'll talk about something or other, you know, whether it's business or otherwise. But I know that has helped me, and I've only done it for 2 weeks. Like, I haven't done it forever. It's just something that I'm testing to move, because to allow, you know, I guess not being so glued to the phone. I mean, in essence, technology and social media.
Especially, like, being an artist and a musician, and you got to promote your stuff, and well, that's a really solid, if anything, it's like the number one way to promote your stuff. Like,
Right.
It's not even like your website anymore. It's like your, you know, or it's like your email or anything. It's like, no, your Facebook. How many followers do you have on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Periscope, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know? And I already hate social media enough. Like, I hate what it does for our egos and, like, our narcissism, and how it's kind of played into this generation and all that.
I'm not gonna say I don't like social media, because I feel like one way or another you're connected to the certain things that you like through social media.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
I guess going off of that, I hate how addicting it is. I hate that I
Yeah.
like it.
And one thing on Brian is you don't have Facebook.
Yeah, I don't have Facebook.
You're weird.
Yeah, it was a part of it was because I didn't feel like I used it enough to put my own content on there. It was anytime I went on there, like it felt like I was just seeing a lot more of other people's lives than I wanted to, or like than I was concerned for, that I cared for. So yeah, it just felt like it was unnecessary, and I just got rid of it. I was like, you know what, I not that it was addicting, but I found myself sometimes taking too much time for that, and it wasn't necessary, so I just got rid of it, and I'm okay. Like,
yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I'm
Yeah,
like, you don't have Facebook, and I think that's awesome. Like today I was talking to somebody, and so Facebook came up, and she's like, oh, I'm just getting tired of like seeing these posts, and she's just aggravated, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, get rid of it. And when they thought about it, like, man, like I can, like it's actually not as hard as you think.
yeah, it's not an obligation.
Yeah. And that's, oh man, but that goes with like change of like the idea of what, so I think what social media was meant to be into what it turned out to be. Because Mark Zuckerberg, when he created Facebook, it's to connect people, and it started at a college. It wasn't like it was like a mass thing until like later he's like, okay, I can make some money off of this. Fine. He made it into a business. That's not a bad thing. You want to create, you want to innovate, fine. But once you started seeing ads, and then business were like, hey, can I share some space on this internet page and whatever, and that just changed everything.
Well, and now they're getting into the whole like fake news things, like, oh, we're gonna block fake news. So I mean, I guess that's nothing new, right? They've been kind of controlling their content for a while now, right? And maybe
Something like that.
since their inception, but I don't know, man. It's just so strange. And then like it's starting to like pick up on your habits. Like you go into Google or you go into Amazon and you're looking for like I don't know, whatever the hell Brian's gonna sell, but like you're looking like for a product, and then you go like into your Facebook, and it's like on the side, it's just like advertising that
Like
product.
Musician's Friend, Guitar Center.
Yeah.
Reverb.com.
I don't know, man. It's really intrusive.
Well, I think what it comes down to is that, like, so let's go back to television. You have commercials running through your programs, kind of interrupting your programs, and the commercials are there to reach an audience, to reach a market, and these networks allow that because they need funding, so that they get money through that. At least, like, for example, like local or like channels that you can get over antenna, they make their money off of these ads. So I think that a lot of these audiences that would normally watch television, we're all moving away from that, and now we're just streaming content, and now we're spending a lot of time on social media. So there's ads on Snapchat, there's ads on Twitter, and from what I hear, there's ads on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is just the same concept of marketing and advertising. It's just moving on to the media that we are using now more than what was used then. So it may seem, I think that the reason it seems intrusive is because that's where you're spending more time on now. Did commercials on TV seem intrusive before?
Always.
Well, and now you're on Facebook, and now it seems intrusive on Facebook. And the weird thing about Facebook, and maybe it's a smart thing too, is that they know like your internet history, and they can market to you better than they could when you were watching TV.
Ah, man.
And while I feel like for the businesses, it's a great thing. That's how you get your, even now, like you can make a business now. You make it now. You can make a Facebook and just promote, and that's a great thing. But as a society and as people trying to live, and you hear all these depressed people. Like there's one thing I was watching. Was it Peter Thiel or was it Tim Ferriss with Jocko? It was one of those. Either way, but the main thing was it might have been Tim Ferriss. Social media. People who have Facebook accounts, social media accounts, have like X amount percentage, way more chance of like depression and like other like stuff like mental like breakdowns and stuff because of social media. Like it's a direct like cause. Like social media causes depression. Social media causes like And then going to Simon Sinek with like the dopamine and all that stuff that you get, your brain, you get that instant gratification.
And I think a point of or a factor of the whole depression thing because of social media was the fact that I think people's lives or other people's lives seem better. So people get depressed when they feel that their life isn't as great as all of these other people who are posting their so-called, great lives out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I honestly feel like all of this comes, or it's kind of related to what we were talking about earlier, having, just being kind of almost nonchalant about things. Like, I'm not so worried, concerned about other people's lives.
Okay, what I'm going to bring up in addition to what you're saying is, while we're not, because I feel like, we have way more important things that we're currently worrying about, but for the majority, which is like the older generation, the millennials, and then the generation coming up after us, because like I'm here with these kids that have cell phones and they're just like crazy. Like, it's like, man, like, how is it going to be in 10? Even I thought it was going to be longer before like maybe like the next big change is going to happen. It's going to be way quicker.
Yeah.
And it's kind of freaking me out from the social aspect. Like I said, like the business thing, it's great for business. It's great to market and meet people, maybe whatever. But the social interaction, and I'm not talking like talking face to face. I'm talking just being a person and like, oh, you envy somebody, and it's like and that causes like all this other stuff, like depression and suicide and all these other things. It's like, man, like will social media businesses like Facebook and like those like social media actual links, will they help these people? Like, if they're causing like all this bad, like is there a time where they need to realize, or someone needs to realize, like, like, hey, you guys, like, I'm glad you have Facebook, but I'm glad you're on my website, but take it easy, like, don't come on every day or something like that, to where it doesn't affect someone mentally.
Yeah.
As far as like just mental like breakdowns of like certain things, like we're talking about instant gratification stuff and what social media does. It's like, well, it does good, but it also does bad. And how can we mitigate the bad?
Well, I may be too late to the topic now. I've been like looking this up to find this response article that this person wrote to that Simon video. What's his last name? Simon what?
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek video.
Sinek.
So this response article, this guy puts, Simon then discusses social media addiction by pointing out that texting, Facebook, Instagram, etc. can give your brain a hit of dopamine. While that's true, Simon disingenuously compares it only to addictive behaviors like smoking, gambling, and drinking, while ignoring that you can also get a release of dopamine by exercising, accomplishing a goal, or getting a hug from a friend. Also, that's a vast oversimplification of what dopamine is and does.
And while I don't disagree with this article, because I get what he's saying, but he's talking about, to me, the minority of millennials. He's trying to bash Simon Sinek for talking about general millennials. No, there's a lot of dumbass millennials. Like, there's a lot of them. Fine, that's just the truth. Now, not all are. Like, we're trying to do something. No, the way he wrote the article, whoever wrote this, he obviously knows people that are getting after it too, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm pretty sure Simon Sinek's not talking about those people either. He's talking about, and even when they show the audience on Simon's video, it's like there's millennials there. That's why half of them are laughing, because it's like, man, it's probably true. They probably know, everybody in there probably knows at least one person who's Simon's talking about and who this kid is not talking about. Whoever this author wrote the article.
I mean, everything in moderation, man. I think that's the key. It has to be moderation to it.
Now, how do we get there?
It's hard to slow down, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to put it down. It's addicting. Even to me, it's like sometimes that's like the first thing I do. Like, even though, like, as much as I don't hate it just so much as I hate that I like it. I hate like how like into it I am sometimes,
Yeah.
So it's like oh, like I want to see what my friends are up to, what like people are doing, and it's like whatever, going through it, or I want to post a cool video of Leanne Womack singing a cool song or whatever, and then see how many people I guess relate to it, right? But yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like sometimes I wake up and it's like the first thing I do is like, oh, I'm gonna open the Facebook app, and it's like I haven't even turned off my alarm yet, and I've already opened the Facebook app.
Then your alarm rings for 10 more times.
Yeah.
For like an hour. Well, okay, I guess one thing that I was gonna add to like when this kid he talks about that that Simon compares it to like alcohol and drugs and whatnot because it's the same thing. It has the same effect now. While exercising is good for you, the people who are addicted to these things don't exercise. So it's like, what are you arguing? What is this guy who wrote the article's true argument? Because to me, it's very unclear in the sense of. He's not talking about everyone. He's only talking about the people that he knows. That's what I got out of the article. That's when I text Eddie back, and I was like, man, there's a lot of points that I understand, but I feel like he's not talking about the people that he knows. Because I'm like, I related it to me. Like I know Eddie, I know Brian. We're getting after we have our priorities, and that's what we're doing. But then we have those people that we see on social media. It's like, man, like really, dude, like that's what that's what you're doing. Like that's the best you can do, and not that maybe. I don't mean it in a demeaning way. I mean it in the very sense of allowing for social media to be like the gateway, as opposed to like actually living.
Yeah. Well, then okay, so like I gotta catch myself doing this with songwriting. So it's like I know I really shouldn't be super excited about a song until it's done. Like I try to keep myself. Confined to that thought, I guess. Like, don't be excited about it until it's done, and then until it's completely done. Don't show anyone the song until it's done. Don't tell anyone about it. Don't speak about it. And I do that now because I'll catch myself if I spill the beans on an idea I think is cool or 4 lines that I thought were awesome, and I'll tell like Andy about it or I'll tell someone else about it or whatever, and then it's like. Okay, Andy thought it was a cool idea, it was a cool 4 lines or it was a cool couplet or whatever. That feels good that he liked it. Now I don't feel the need to go finish it because I already got my the gratification from it. So yeah, it's so I don't post my song lyrics anymore or titles or ideas or anything. I try to hold on to it.
Well, either way, I think that's very interesting because I never thought about it like that. I'm like, when you tell me something, I'm like, damn it, Eddie, you have another. To me, half the more than half the stuff. Everything you send me. I'm like, man, Eddie's onto something here. Regardless of what it is, at least from my perspective, you talk to a friend in Nashville or something, they might say something else, but I know when I see you write, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you finish it and see what you bring out of it.
I usually do. I'm better about it now, but it's back in the day, it's it wasn't so good. But anyway, tying all this in, this is what I see a lot of on social media. It's people trying to get healthy, get fit, or whatever, or getting motivated, get inspired, and so they post some meme that's insert Dalai Lama quote or something or whatever it is,
yeah.
And then it's just, okay, you posted that. Are you actually doing anything? Do you feel the need to do anything now that you posted that? You got 100, or 200 likes on it.
You get your 200 likes.
Yeah, you get your gratification from it. Now do you really feel like doing anything?
So I'm kind of glad you brought this up because you were bringing up the bad, right? And the negative impact that social media has on people and with maybe depression and stuff like that. So then there's people that are posting motivational things, and maybe let's say a person is posting motivational quotes and pictures and this and that, but they're not doing anything to get after it. But the fact that they are putting this content out there, could that be helping people?
I do think so.
You see what I mean? If there are the negatives to social media and causing depression and other, detrimental mental conditions or just bad stuff. Are these people, even if they personally aren't getting after it, but they are posting motivational things could they be building people up? And, how do you know about it?
Right.
So
it's pros and cons, man.
Yeah,
I guess, but
yeah,
trade-off.
So maybe it's not being done in a global way.
Okay.
But maybe it is happening.
But how can a person preach what they don't do? Because I don't disagree. Because I know there's some days where I feel lazy as hell. But I'm gonna go to jiu-jitsu and get my ass beat because I'm like, okay, dude, get this knocked out of you. You shouldn't. I feel like sometimes maybe I may talk too much to not do something. If I have a lazy Wednesday, and then Thursday comes around, I'm like, okay, I need to go to jiu-jitsu because okay, I've already missed a day, and that's not good for training. But for 2, it's more of a me thing because if I'm trying to help Eddie, if I'm trying to help Brian, if I'm trying to help my family, if I'm trying to help anybody. People at the gym that I work with every day, it's how can I suggest to them stuff if I'm not doing it myself. Because I don't disagree with you. Because it helps. It does help. But for me, it's like I need to move in order to help people move.
Right. And I don't think that applies to everybody, though.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
So I think there are people out there that aren't getting after it, and somehow they could be helping other people get after it. So I think that's the way you feel, and I think that's fair. But I also believe that there could be other people. And I only truly believe it, or I only brought it up because Eddie was saying it, like, are you really doing something about it? Are you really, doing what you're preaching? And maybe you don't have to. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but maybe some people are getting after it thanks to these people who may not be, but are preaching about it.
Yeah, that helps me. That definitely helps me.
And along with like all of this social media being here and now and its negative and maybe positive effects, I honestly feel that all of these pros and cons have existed before, but just through different methods.
Different mediums.
Yeah, like you were saying about how you want to show friends, this cool video, or you want to, you use social media to interact with your friends. Well, how did people interact before? They all hung out somewhere. So, like, the social media now has, and I think we all know this, it has, like, substituted face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And then, like, all these, like, Facebook ads, back in the day, didn't you have kind of, like, door-to-door salesmen? Like, I think that all of these things are just kind of moving forward, and they seem intrusive now because the internet and social media has allowed us to be more informed about these. So maybe people were depressed before because they envied their neighbor or they envied their friends, but we didn't know about it because there wasn't a public wall to post it on. So, I don't know, just something I kind of was thinking about.
It's very interesting now, like, I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea to like transfer this into like a political agenda, but now we're gonna have a president whose Twitter use is phenomenally disturbing, but it's awesome. Like he says like some really terrible shit sometimes, but then at the same time it's like, oh, the dopamine hit. That was pretty hilarious. Like he got like so butthurt about the Hamilton thing, and I just come on, man, He's like, you didn't have to tweet all that shit, like,
Yeah.
Allegedly. And then there was silence.
Sometimes I feel like I don't know. Andy knows this, but I sometimes I feel like silence is good, and I say that Andy knows this. I guess I got ahead of myself. I like it. I like silence sometimes, but because I enjoy sometimes like being alone, being by myself, I feel that it gives me like I rest from any other like interaction, and not that like I get annoyed or tired of being around people. Like I love being around people because I choose who I'm around, and I have like a small circle of friends that I like, that I consider friends, that I consider good people, good friends. So I feel like sometimes being alone gives me an opportunity to like absorb everything that I've like heard or everything that I've experienced with these people.
So sliding into DMs, like we're not good enough to like have a conversation face to face when we run into each other, or like what is it about that? Because that's kind of like been happening to me lately, where like people just kind of like, I'm like over here on my house, people slide into my fucking DMs. I mean, like, I'm guilty, but like I've done it, whatever. But it's like a thing that bothers me too, I guess, because it's like, man, it's like why can't it just like build up the nerve to go like talk to that girl or or in person, even though we've never met before, and be like, hey, like let's have a dance for at the bar or whatever, or let's like, can I get you a drink? Like where where's all that gone? And now it's just like, no, I'm just gonna slide into her DMs later. or she's gonna slide into mine, and it'll be less awkward because of it. But,
right. Well, that comes with like social interaction, like the social interaction versus social media. Now, why it's changing, I don't know the science behind it. There has to be some. I feel like for social media and social interaction, there has to be some scientific explanation for it. Because there's something with talking, and I guess the one thing now that I'm saying out loud, when you're sending a text, whether it's DMs or whatever, text messages in general, you have time to erase and then re-put your thought.
Yeah.
When you say something, and if it's just the right sentence, like, it's gonna stay forever, right? Whether it's good or bad doesn't matter. But the point is that you can't edit what you say versus you can see your text, look at your phone, and then you're like, nah, that's stupid. You erase the whole thing, and you start over again.
Yeah.
So you have time to mitigate your instant gratification.
And I think what makes like a face-to-face interaction a little more intimidating is the fact that you don't have like the time or the chance to second guess your response or your statement. And I think that it's intimidating because we don't have the practice, you know, like.
And for us at least, that we work on things. We don't want to do it wrong. At least at the very least, we don't want to do whatever that one thing is wrong. And in this case, it's social interaction because we don't do it enough. Now when now us three here in this table, we've known each other for over 10 years. We've known each other for forever.
Yeah.
But that's what it's going to take with new people. So when you're meeting new people, it takes time, which is relative to what everything we've been talking about.
I love the awkwardness of like face-to-face interactions, though. At least like the genuine awkwardness comes from it. But honestly, like, okay, so this all stems from. I'm not saying this because like going on a first date with a girl, I usually bring up my my desire to do DMT or try DMT, try that psychedelic hallucinogenic contraption. Or, travel to Peru at some point in my life and have an ayahuasca experience with a shaman and do that whole process. So that usually opens up a conversation to, well, what's DMT? And it's like, well, let me tell you. And then, then I give that whole, like, Joe Rogan, like, rehearsed bit about DMT, what it is and where it comes from, and what it does to you and all that. And then it just, like, they either look at me like, you're fucking strange, or they're just kind of like, interesting. And then it just kind of like.
But then you get that one conversation like, what? And they want to know more, or they know what you're talking about, and you continue the conversation.
Yeah. So I love throwing first dates for a whirl with the DMT. It's always fun. That or bring up like last night even like I couldn't help it. I brought up like, how do you think the world's gonna end? Like and I totally brought it up with that girl. She's just sitting there, poor thing. She's just sitting there like. I don't know.
I don't want that today.
Yeah. And then I'm over here like, well, how long were the dinosaurs on the Earth? Andy, look up how long the dinosaurs were on the Earth. What did you say it was? Like 120 billion
127 million years.
Oh, million years. Yeah. Okay. And we've only been on the Earth.
As human beings, 200,000. As civilizations, like 6,000.
That's nuts to fucking
and
think
that
about.
Don't quote me that. That's like a Wikipedia shit. So for you people listening, like, if you find the answer, I'm going to post this on social media, and you can give me the right answer, and it's all good. It's no big deal. It's just what I couldn't recall from last night.
So it took dinosaurs that long to develop and, like, evolve and go through all that and then die. So, I mean, like, we're pretty far off from that date, but, I mean, at any given moment, it can all go down.
And it's true. And, and while that's very possible, it's just as possible for us to be the first 6,000 years of civilization of the next 120 million. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're gonna go back. I'm gonna bring up dichotomies because I love dichotomies. Now this is a 2016 thing that I developed from Jocko Willink. But a lot of people are like, oh, like it can end tomorrow. I'm like, well, it could also end a million years from now. We will never know because even if it ends tomorrow, we won't be here to know it. So I'm not arguing against. I'm just saying that there's multiple possibilities, and I think that's a lot of things that everybody wants their opinion or their point of view to be the absolute, zero, like absolute one, and it's like no, like there's one and there's all types of ones, right? And that's the thing that I guess that does bother me. It's like no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there's possibilities, and I don't want them to be overseen because if you have 5% of something happening, it's still a percentage. It's still part of what you're
part of the
for.
whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people cut that out just because it's 5%. It's like, well, no. If it happens, I'm not gonna tell you I told you so, but I'll show you the pie chart. Say it was possible. It happened.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we're gonna progress now. We're gonna move on, and that's gonna be that. But yeah, definitely, and that goes back to like ego and everything. It's just like, it's like, no, like you can have multiple views. Like, it's like when you have to disagree on something, half the time it can probably be mitigated. It can be, just agree to disagree, and people don't want to do that. People are like, no, I'm right.
Well,
Right.
okay, so going back to cheesy quotes people post on Facebook, every now and then one comes across that's just like, yes, right? So someone posted the other day that I caught this. It was that people don't debate anymore, like to listen. They debate to argue, or you don't listen to whatever it is. What's the damn quote?
Well, that makes sense to me. Well, yeah, you don't listen to like basically you don't listen to solve the
You
problem.
don't. Okay, here's what it was. It's you don't listen to understand anymore. Now you're listening to respond.
Yes.
Yeah.
And understand and
Makes
respond are
sense.
like important things. And I know I promise I am just trying to understand what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. I guess it's also kind of a problem. That's kind of like a me thing where I tell you guys about me things all the time because it's like I talk to you guys on a daily basis. But like when I'm talking to somebody and it gets to a certain point where it's like, how deep into conversation do I want to go with this person? And while maybe going deep isn't bad, it's not a bad thing, but like I don't know this person. Like I don't know what they're about. I don't know what their point of view is, and I don't mind learning about their point of view. But I feel sometimes I may go too deep into conversation too fast. Whereas when we get there, like we already know each other, so we kind of just if we could dive into something, it's fine. But when you're interacting with somebody relatively new, I feel like that's a me problem. Like
Well,
I do that too often, and I usually that's when I usually stop talking because I feel like if my next sentence is gonna dive into like this tangent, this rabbit hole of thinking too deeply, too metaphorically, too philosophically, and then it's like, well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I get to a stump, and it's like, okay, I just stop. I should be quiet.
Well, I think the problem is not with you. I think the problem is with some people respond well to that. Some people don't respond well to that. I guess like it's all like comes down to like who are you talking to and how are they going to take it. Like, because I'm like the exact opposite actually. Like, I mean, I don't like that could be like 5 minutes into a first date, and maybe this is why like my dates don't go well. But I'll be like, like. What's the thing in your life that you most regret, or like like some big thing like that.
Yeah.
But that's because like that says a lot about a person, and I really want to get to know that about a
Right,
person.
right.
And I'm a very open person. Like I will tell anyone just about anything about
Mhm.
myself, right? Within some confines.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like if you want to know what my biggest, darkest, deepest regret is, I'm gonna tell you. Like
Yeah,
like
right.
even if I've only been talking to you
what
for 5
is it?
seconds. Because I like understanding people's perspective, and I want people to understand mine.
Yeah.
And because that keeps the whole,
Thing moving.
the whole thing
now,
moving.
Man, because I completely agree with that, but I feel like when I'm get to that point, I can't do it, and it's more that I won't do it because I won't do it, and I don't know why. I don't know. I feel like I get too philosophical sometimes. That I do desensitize from the reality sometimes. Whereas like I'm reading like this book by Marcus Aurelius called Meditations, and it's just his thoughts. It's literally what's going on in his brain. And while like I can talk to Brian about it because he understands. Eddie listens to the Stoic, Daily Stoic, gets that stuff too. So we understand that because now if I'm trying to talk to somebody that has no idea who Marcus Aurelius is, he only knows him as the guy that's on Gladiator. It's like that's very minimal to who Marcus Aurelius is. And it's like I'm trying to think of I'm trying to get into the like what he was doing and actually the actual history of the real Marcus Aurelius, where I can't do that with a person that I just met.
Well, I want to say that I think you can do that, but it's up to you to understand their knowledge of it and what you can say based on that. So, I mean, you're not going to go into like a conversation about Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius and full blown like just blast all the information about it, but you kind of have to understand what they know and what you want them to know or what they're interested in, and ease them into it.
Right. Okay. So if a lot of people are quote unquote victims, right? So let's say they tell me a problem or something happens and it's like, oh, this is the biggest problem in the world, and I'm like, no, you can solve that. Just delete your Facebook or just stop talking to that person. It's not that hard. A lot of things are black and white, and while I try not to do that for everybody because it's like, well, you can't just talk to somebody or at least I feel like you can't talk to somebody like that. Now, when I've talked, now I know it, like you guys here, I know you guys, so I talk to you guys a certain way. Whereas if someone that just met, I can say, well, you're like, don't do that. Like, it's wrong. If you feel a certain way, why are you making yourself unhappy? And a lot of people don't understand or haven't gone to that. Maybe they haven't gone to that point of like understanding like that they have a choice and making decisions, even if it's hard. Like you talk about like firing and like because I dealt with it when I work retail. And it's like it's never an easy thing, but it has to happen sometimes. Mm-hmm. It has to happen, and that's very black and white. Okay, this is what you did. We gave you a chance, or whatever the scenario is. We gave you a chance. We did this. We did this. We did this. It still didn't work out. Sorry, we had to let you go. That's a very black and white thing. People are like, oh, I can't do this because my cousin won't let me. What do you mean your cousin won't let you? I don't understand that. So, well, I guess I understand what you're saying as far as like making conversation, but when people then go into like, oh, I wish I could have slept more. I only slept like 2 hours. Well, why'd you only sleep 2 hours? Now, were you up bullshitting? Or were you actually doing work? Okay, fine. If you were actually doing work and you only have 2 hours of sleep, that happens. Sleep over the weekend. Sleep on Sunday. Find time to sleep, because I do suggest to sleep. I'm not saying not to sleep. I'm just saying that if you make a choice, if you make a decision, it's your decision. Not, my brother did this. Like, well, okay. So then, are you going to do it or are you not? No, I don't think so because I don't like it. Okay, fine, don't do it. As opposed to, anything else like us. It's like okay.
It's the need for reassurance.
I can reassure somebody to get after it.
I mean, like put it to you this way. So, like, you're a big fan of Jocko Willink and his podcast, and that's been a big key in your life, right? Inspiring you lately. Mm-hmm. So why do you still listen to him when you know what he's going to say?
Because there's those golden nuggets that still come out. And one thing that he brought up on one of his podcasts, because he brought up that, he's like, well, he started getting feedback of like, hey, like I feel like I know what you're going to say. And his response to that was, well, then I'm teaching you, you're learning, because repetition helps you retain stuff.
Good
so
point.
when you retain and you keep let's just say decision making, right? Making a choice, you have it. It's your choice. It's not your cousin. It's not your brother. It's not your mom. It's not your dad. It's your choice. Now, you have that. So if he reads one book and the whole book's about choice, well, then by the end, like, man, you're gonna walk into your own personal life, your own personal scenario, and be like, okay, I would do this. This is the choice I will make. So that's why I do that now. So I still listen because there's still new stuff coming up. Whereas the stuff that he repeats, like, oh, I know what Jocko would say, but it's like, okay, I now do the same thing. Does that make sense? Like
that's
retention.
A good response.
Yeah, retention helps. Retention helps you use it over. If you use it over and over again, which causes retention also, you'll be able to then help others. Actually, okay, I'm gonna give you a scenario from yesterday. So I'm doing 8th grade math, and there's this kid. He's super bright kid. I hope in 10 years, I see him, done with college and whatever, because to me, even now as an 8th grader, I'm like, man, you may be a kid that I'd like to hire at some point, and when he gets older. And I walked him through, I gave him step by step. I'm like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. I gave him 3 steps. 5 minutes later, I heard him from across the room. I overheard him explain to the girl next to him, and I was like, hey, good job. And she's like, oh, I get it now, and she didn't have to ask me a question. So if I'm able to explain clearly, and even if he were to ask me over and over again, but eventually he's able to explain to somebody else that then gets it, that helps, and then that allows me to then take care of the rest of the class. That's what Jocko does. So Jocko repeats a lot with purpose, which I learned. I didn't learn for people listening. This stuff is just learning and listening over and over again. Because even I get comments like that. Like, how do you listen to Jocko every Wednesday? I'm like, that's my first thing. It's like 2 a.m. and Jocko's podcast gets posted, and it's like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do for the next 2 hours. Yeah, next 2-3 hours, depending on how long it is. And I was like, oh, okay, I know that answer. But that's the point. You should know the answer, because that's what you do. You go with that, and then you give it to other people. When working with our bandmates, okay, fine. When Brian comes with me with a scenario, it's like, okay, this is what I think I would do now. And this is, like I said, for me, this is a very 2016 thing that I just kind of went into. I won't say 180, but I definitely made a lot of life-altering decisions. not life changing, just altered them to a different direction, to where I'm at now. It's 2017, starting this podcast, and then continuing with other works.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Repetition.
Yeah.
Man, I wish my kids would practice their repetition. My students, I mean, by kids.
Okay, well, how could you do that? And I will agree with you that, or what I'm going to bring up is that I think parents need to make their kids do it. Make their kids. You are the parent. I have, and I even have. Okay, I don't. It's gonna be open up a lot of can of worms, but I have family members that allow their kids to do whatever the situation may be, and that pisses me off because then they wonder, oh, why is my kid like not well behaved? Well, what did you do to mitigate that behavior? Were you there or were you not? Or were you just yelling? Because what I learned, I'm going to go on a tangent now. So what I learned is through football, because my oldest cousin that's in football, his coach yells everything. Eventually, I saw the kids transform to where he was yelling and it didn't faze them. It didn't matter. And these kids were giving up. And they were literally like telling him, and because I talked to the coach and he's like, man, these kids are telling me they're giving up. I'm like, yeah, because you keep yelling at them. You get to a certain point, you're yelling, like it's not going to faze them anymore. That's why repetition, it can also do very bad. When you repeat your yelling, it's like, okay, it's normal. As opposed to, if you talk to them, hey guys, for this play, make sure you go here, okay, cool. Now there's a disciplinary problem. Okay, you yell at them, but if you're coaching, you need to lead. If you're parenting, you need to lead. So going back to Eddie's statement about getting his kids to repeat, I think more than the kids, it's the parents' duty. If they're paying for their kid to learn something new, and so this is an investment of not just money, but it's also an investment of time. That's the only way that your kids are going to be able to. You, Eddie, your kids are going to be able to actually move on, retain, then move on week to week, as opposed to repeating the same song for 3-4 weeks, up to a month. And now now the parent has paid another month's tuition going over one song. But why? Because they didn't go home and practice at least 30 minutes a day, even 5 minutes a day. Something. Open the book. They probably didn't even take the book off the car, or the paper, whatever it is. They take it out of the glove box or wherever it's at, and they walk off and come to class.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point now where today I tried this new thing, teaching. I started teaching at 11 o'clock in the morning, which kind of hurt because of how late we were out last night, but it's all good. And so I started teaching at 11 o'clock. I probably had 10 lessons today or something like that.
That's long.
Anyway, 10 voice lessons. But anyway, and all I did all day, I think I only worked on a song with one student who was actually ready to work on a song. Her technique was great. It was amazing. She's been working at it. It's there. Now we can sing this Adele song. And that's awesome. But every other student, I was like, well, the technique's not there yet. We're going to do 30 minutes of vocalizing. Because, and I need it too. I called my voice coach, and, it's I need him to kick my butt for 45 minutes to an hour on nothing but vocalizing because I've developed all these bad habits singing in bars. So it's, repetition, man.
And it goes back to doing stuff outside the room. You went home, you're done with college. You're not what's the word I'm looking for? You're not obligated to try to better yourself singing, because for the most part, a lot of people don't hear the mistakes. I'm like, what are you talking about, Eddie? I have no idea what you're talking about. Even we're there, but you know what you're supposed to do and sound like, or whatever idea is. So you go home and you practice. And that's the point. These kids, their parents they think they're superstars. Oh man, okay. So there's another parent that I know. Sorry, I'm gonna come back and forth from tangent because I see it every day, especially knowing a 15-year-old, knowing a 7-year-old, knowing a few 6, knowing these kids that are going through life, and with what I've learned in 2016 as far as leading and wanting to develop human beings, it's it starts with leadership, it starts with parents, and in that case, it starts with the parents, it starts with coaches, it starts with teachers, and even dealing with teachers, that's gonna be a whole nother podcast, but for a few classes that I've studied, I'm like, oh my god, they have to do so much. And it's so crazy to me. They don't have time to lead. They're not given the proper time and things and things that the right tools to then properly lead the class, as opposed to, okay, learn this, pass a test, and move on. You know, this stupid STAR test. I'm very against what's it called, like
Standardized
testing. Yeah,
testing.
standardized testing.
Same.
I'm very against it. And I remember in college, I did a paper. It was like a 5-page paper, like just all it was just not bashing because it had to be facts on it. But I'll never forget. I still have it on my computer, but I'll never forget that I did that because even now I see it more firsthand with family members that are, or younger family members that are taking these tests. Like, it's dumb. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, does that really constitute, or does that really give you does that even give you a 50% perception of how kids really are or what kids really need? There's this one kid yesterday. He did his work, but it gets down him, but like I could see him, like he was like dancing in his seat, basically. He didn't have headphones on, he didn't have a phone out, but he was dancing. Like, I bet you that kid would be a bad, like, if his parents would let him. I bet you his dad doesn't let him dance because he's a kid. He's a boy. He's like, no, he's probably like, you should be playing football or basketball or something, as opposed to letting him dance. Like, yeah, if he's good at it, he make a career out of dancing. People do it every day. It's artistic. People do that. There's school for that. But it goes back to leadership. Goes back to the top.
Mm-hmm. Man, cliche, but life is too insignificant and way too short to not do what you want to do.
Yeah. People are like, oh, I'm so upset at this job. I'm like, well, why are you upset? Oh, because it takes this much time, or because of these people, or because of something else. I'm like, okay, well, then quit. I'm like, what else can you do? It's like, well, I got my degree in this and this and that. It's like, well, I have a business degree. I'm playing music, and I have 2 other jobs that have nothing. I use my degree as tools, but I don't direct. I'm not a manager of a store. I'm not even a manager of a band. I help Eddie run the band. Yeah. Like I said, I use a lot of tools, but I'm not the manager, and I don't try to be because that's not my spot. When I worked retail in college, I learned my place. I learned where I belonged in the system, and even now, like working with middle school kids, I'm very comfortable working with middle school kids as opposed to elementary and then the egotistical high school kids,
Mm-hmm.
where they know everything. So you should hire them now. Hire all the teenagers.
Just for clarification, when I say life is insignificant, I'm okay. Like, just like in the grand scheme of things, like being here on a planet with, what is it, 7 billion people?
I think it's like 8 now.
Ah, Jesus.
Yeah.
That
was quick.
Yeah. It was 7 billion like 5 seconds ago. Anyway, like being here with that many people, and then on this small little planet in this small little solar system in this small little galaxy that there's millions upon millions of, not even millions, infinite other galaxies, as far as we know, that the universe is expanding constantly. So it's like, just thinking about that, it's just, there's so much out there, and we're just this tiny little speck that happens to be here and have life, and we like can think and have thoughts and do podcasts, and it's freaking nuts.
What I thought about the other day, actually looking up, it sounds maybe cliche too, but I was looking up at the stars because one thing that came to my mind, I'm like, imagine if every star was a sun, and it's ending at that moment, and by the time we see it, it's already past.
Yeah, it's already
the past.
Done. Yeah. Oh, love it. Yeah,
That's good.
space is cool.
It is.
Pluto needs to be reinstated as a planet, by the way. Not like to completely change the subject, but anyone listening, if you have not seen this documentary that's been playing like on Nat Geo or Science Channel or whatever it is, it's the story of the Pluto mission, and it took us like 9 years, I think, if I remember correctly, to get to Pluto, all just to take like pictures. But now we have like all these pictures of Pluto, and it has like a geographically active, surface or whatever the hell that means. But it sounds cool when you say it. But anyway, all this to say that we're just super insignificant, and so to think like you just have to wake up and go to a shitty job that you hate, like that's sad. Like, why would you waste any time doing anything you didn't want to do, unless it helped you into doing what you want to do?
Get there, right?
I think sometimes that happens. Like that whole thing about reaching rock bottom. Maybe going to your shitty job isn't necessarily rock bottom, but sometimes that's what sparks people to do what they really want to do, or it makes them realize that that job isn't what they want to do. So I do agree that sometimes, or that people shouldn't do what they don't want to do. sometimes it's doing that makes them realize they don't want to do it.
It's fair. I guess like also sometimes you got to do like what you have to do. I guess right. Like you got to pay bills.
Well, also naivety, I feel like has something to do with it because I know when I was a senior and I worked at Pizza Hut for like a month, maybe 2 months, but I learned by then. I learned a good 2 weeks in. I'm like, okay, I never want to work food again. I don't want to be a waiter. I don't want to be a host. I don't want to work as a cook. I learned that. I never went back. I haven't worked food since. Okay, fast forward to college, get a job in retail, become a supervisor, key holder, whatever. And then by the time I got done with that, because my last year of college, all I did was focus on school because I was just so done. I was ready to just graduate. So I quit, and I was allowed to quit because I made my work. I let my work, which was gigging already. I was already gigging, so I let that work pay for my costs that I minimized so I can quit my retail job. But I knew that I never wanted to work retail again. And now we do sales. I mean, technically we play shows. We have to promote that. We have to do things online, social media and whatnot. Brian's starting. He's gonna start his thing. I'm gonna be an investor as well. But I learned that I never wanted to learn to work retail. But in order to learn, you don't want to do something. You have to do it, and then you realize it. Now, for those that I hate my job, well then quit. And that's what Eddie's talking about. And that's where Brian says, like you need that to know what you want to do next. At least, at very minimum, at least do it. Find out you don't like it, and then move on. Now, there's a lot of people that get a certain degree or whatever, and then they go into that field and they don't like it. Yeah. Peter Tia did that. He wanted to get a PhD in astrophysics or something like that. Either way, that was his goal. Ended up going to med school. Then he quit med school. And then he went back and finished. Because at that moment, it's like, man, like I don't want to do this. Fine, and he quit. To me, at least the way he made it sound, maybe it took some time, like in relative to months, or maybe even a year. But the way he made his decision sound was that it was just an instant. He's like, no, I don't want to do this, and then he didn't. And then he's doing what he's doing now. But I'm just talking about transitioning from job to job, which you're talking about.
I guess the other thing, too, that I was just thinking as you were saying that was, like, does anyone really sign up for a job or, like, go to start a job thinking, like, I'm going to absolutely fucking hate this. Like, it's going to be terrible. Like, I don't think I've ever known anyone that necessarily had that train of thought going into a job.
I have to agree. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I guess, like, you don't, like, realize it sucks until you start doing it. And that's when what Brian said would kick in.
Yeah, sometimes doing it makes you realize you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know you don't like broccoli? You have to try it first.
Oh, man. Shut up.
For the record, I like broccoli.
For the record, I didn't like it until I tried it.
Well, there you go.
So. It's good. The other thing I also think about is like the progression of like I guess the mindsets of different generations of societies, right? Like, so we have like World War II happen, and then people come back, and it's kind of all about security and white picket fence and that kind of lifestyle kind of thing, right? Like your security, you've got your job, your 9 to 5 that you go to, and you come back home, your wife's at home taking care of the kids. And that's life, right? Secure, you're stable, you're good. And that's what you try to pass on to your kids at that point, right? And then we get this whole counterculture revolution of, summer of 69 and then going into the 70s and people who just want to live free and not worry about financial security or anything like that, right? So they're just living how they want to live, despite all of, what society tells them to be.
Right.
And then, I guess, recycle that into a generation that, my parents that grew up being raised to be secure and financially stable. Mm-hmm. But then in turn, they raised me to do what I want to do and pursue my dreams and my passions, regardless of the security outcome. So it's and maybe that's like the thing with our generation too now, the millennial generation. It's like, are we more pursuing our dreams because that's what we want to do, or are we pursuing security? So, and maybe that question isn't answered yet. Maybe it's still in the works. It's developing. I know for me, I'd rather be doing something I like than something that's going to make me secure. Because I was pretty financially secure, bartending, bar backing, working the service industry job in accordance, of course, with working the security job, and I was able to live off of that very okay. and still be able to save up for a record and do all the things I wanted to do with that. So, you know, but I mean, I wasn't necessarily happy bar backing. It was fun, but it's not something I'd want to do for the rest of my life.
Was it fun retrospectively, or was it fun when you were there?
Both.
Okay. It's just a question because, well, I talk about retrospect all the time now. Because it's like, okay, this happened, whatever X happened, you know, 2 months ago. It's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Well, yeah, because it's 2 months ago. It's already in the past. You know, we can't do anything about that particular situation. That's one reason why I'm asking.
Yeah, I bar backed one night, and it was fun only retrospectively.
I remember actually, I still remember that because you texted me like, dude, like, because I knew you were doing that job or whatever, and you're like, you would hate it. I was like, and then the next day you like tell me about it. I'm like, oh my, like, okay, you did this wrong, you know, not necessarily wrong, but I just would do it differently, you know, obviously, just do it differently. Because even by then I was heavy into like the supervising and having a team under me, and you know, being able to deal with that, you know, early on.
Yeah, I didn't have any supervising. It was just like, do it.
Go.
And I was like, do what? But yeah.
Man, I guess the other thing, though, you know, like what made the barback job and the security job a lot of fun was, one, the security job. I mean, good friend was like my supervisor more than half the time. So it's like I'm working amongst like one of my best pals, just like, and kind of in a sense for him. So, I mean, that was always fun, and we always came away from every night with a good story.
Good story.
So, yeah, and there was that. And in barbacking, I was also working with my good pals, right? So I was like working with them, and then the managers were awesome for the most part, and the coworkers were badass, super cool people. We all got along super well for the most part, so there was nothing really negative about the job experience, except that sometimes my coworkers would really, really want to talk about politics, and yeah.
Brian,
it says enough.
What's our 2 rules?
Don't talk about politics or religion in the workplace.
And it seems like no one follows that anymore. Like it seems like it's like an our generation thing. Like it seems like it's a millennial thing.
Yeah.
Like we're not scared to talk about politics and religion for whatever reason. I mean, I totally agree. Like I don't feel comfortable talking about that in the workplace at all, or any place that we have to be professional. No, I don't want to talk about that, man.
It can ruin the mood in an instant.
Yes.
And it just ruins everything.
And not just for the moment, but
yeah, for a while. It could be for a while.
Well, and one of the times this happened was this was around the time that the police videos, the police doing something quote wrong. All those videos were going viral, and then one popped up from this cop in McKinney, the pool incident, where I guess like some like kids like got into a neighborhood that's like not theirs, and like got into the pool and like threw a party, whatever, and the residents of the neighborhood complained and called the cops, and this cop shows up and does a barrel roll and freaking
I did hear about that. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And totally throws, or maybe not throws. I mean, it's kind of harsh, but so eventually it gets to him getting this 16-year-old girl or teenage girl, whatever how old she was, like on the ground in a pretty violent way. I mean, like, do I know if it was called for? Hell no, I'm not gonna make that call. I don't know what the heck was going on for sure, and I'll have to watch the video again. But anyway, and people were really upset about that, and they were immediately calling it, he's a racist, he's a pig, he's a racist, whatever. And so this one girl that I was working with at the bar, like she had brought that up, and I'm over here like, well, I mean, like you don't even like know the guy, like I mean, like how could you just kind of go off the fact that he's a racist, because he threw this African American girl to the ground. And I was like, maybe he's like just doing his job,
right?
And maybe he would have done the same to a white girl or a Hispanic girl or whatever. And she like was not having what I thought was a rational thought, and it's like I don't like going to that assumption. Like I don't know this dude, so but anyway, that was her thought, and she was like just super super distraught and like offended that I would even think differently. And so
that's a millennial thing too.
Yeah, and then when I was talking, like me and even though he lives in Nashville, I live here, we talk like twice a week on the phone or whatever, catch up and like talk about life and whatever, what's going on. So he was telling me that that girl, of course, is still working there, and they were talking about that or whatever, and she tells him like, I can't believe that Eddie, a Hispanic guy, is racist. Like, what? And he's like, where would you get that? And then she tells him the story of, we were talking about that cop in McKinney, Texas or whatever, and then he like slammed that girl to the ground, and he didn't like think it was a bad thing. I was like, that's not what I said.
Wow.
But see how you can change like perception through words. Like you change instantly. She changed what you said. So if it's not recorded, it's like, oh, well, Eddie said this and he's wrong. Like that's terrible. That Eddie can think that. It's like, are you human? It's like, yes, I'm human. Like that's dumb.
Right?
It's
Right?
like,
No,
that
it's
doesn't make
nuts.
sense.
It blew my mind. I was
Doesn't
kind
make
of
sense.
like just distraught hearing that. I was like, how did she get to that conclusion?
Yeah.
But
I will always argue that people want to hear what they want to hear,
yes, absolutely.
and it's terrible. But that's what it is. Now going back to the cop thing.
Before you do it,
Go.
has the perfect word for this: outrage porn. I've never heard of this, but he said outrage porn, and I was like, that's perfect to describe this. Anyway, go ahead with your thought.
Going back to the police thing, I was gonna bring up Scott Reitz, the Sam Harris podcast, the SWAT officer.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? Like where he talked about at some point where because now he does court cases and whatnot. At least during that podcast, he does court cases and he helps the LAPD defend the department if they're in the right, or just mitigate the trial as best he can to help the department. But he was talking about like when he's on the stand and an attorney asks him, "Oh, Mr. Reitz, like in situation A, situation A, what would you do?" So then from there, he gives him his this is what I would do and all that, but you can't base it off of just his experience. Now Scott Reitz is what, 40-year veteran or something like that of SWAT, LA SWAT and whatnot, and so because of that, Scott would do something different as opposed to someone who's brand new on the line, just finished the academy a month ago, and will then tackle the girl because he doesn't. And then in addition to that, like Scott talks about, one of the other cops says, "Well, what does a bad guy look like?"
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, and now we're gonna go into we can go into a different tangent, but my point is like that officer, if he wasn't trained or whatever, hopefully he will be now, and I'm pretty sure it's taken care of now. I mean, it obviously hasn't. It's not back. Let's not get into the news. This was a while back, right? Like how long
Yeah,
ago
this was at least a year and a half ago.
Okay,
not
so
two.
it was a good while back. But just my point of like Scott Reitz, like when you talk about when you take certain things to court, you can't just think, oh, this person does the same thing. No, you don't have the same experience. A 1-year guy does not have the same even knowledge from a book that Scott Reitz would have, who has 40 years in the force. Helping the LAPD. So I always bring that back because a lot of people, like whenever I talk to other people about like certain, now that the whole like cop thing is like a world, a nationwide like quote unquote issue, it's like no, like I would like everybody to listen to Sam Harris interview Scott Reitz so they can get at least a better idea and be open minded. Because the cool thing about Sam Harris is that he's anti-gun and he owns a gun, and Sam Reitz trains him, and Sam Reitz is a 40-year veteran for LAPD. So you want some perspective, be open minded. In that perspective, not open minded. I'm progressive, but yet I'm super liberal, so I'm not gonna like listen to your opinion. It's like, well, that's not what that's what we're here for, and that's not what I'm here for in this podcast. So
No, that's a great suggestion too. That's a great episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have heard that without Eddie giving that to me. So now I listen to it, every so often because like, okay, I need to go back because I want to retain. I want to retain what I'm hearing.
Repetition.
And maybe once every couple of months or whatever. But sometimes it comes up like, man, like maybe an incident happened, so then I'll go back to that podcast. And I'm not gonna. It's so hard to Google things because everything's on Google now. So I'd rather just listen to Scott Reitz, who has firsthand experience in in different situations. At least he gives an idea of what it's like in general, and he is able to explain why you should own a gun, or why certain cops will do certain things versus some other cops and whatnot. And he also is very open to the fact that there's some bad cops out there, and there are racist cops. There are cops who mistreat the badge and whatnot. So then he doesn't disagree with that. He's just giving his perspective because he's been in the force for 40 years.
Yeah. I love what so Victor Wooten, bass player, Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, amongst other things, Wooten Brothers, right? Huge, he's awesome. Anyway, Victor Wooten gave a commencement speech at some college. I can't even remember the name. But anyway, it's like a 20-minute speech if you can find it online. He's like playing bass and he's doing his speech at the same time, and it's like one of the coolest things ever, just to be able to do that. But his speech was very profound, especially with the one part where he's talking about the news, and it has a lot of negative things in it, and that really strikes and stands out to us. It hits a nerve, right? And people get really outraged over all this stuff. So people get really outraged over the police thing, right? Like very quickly, like very massively. Well, what Victor Wooten says about the negative news, he goes like it stands out to us because we know it's not normal, because that's not what we see every day, because it doesn't happen every day. Like it doesn't, it's not a naturally occurring thing. It's a very once in God knows how long, circumstance, So it's one of those things. You gotta like take that into consideration whenever something does happen. It's like, well, it doesn't happen that often. So do we really have a problem, or is you're just something that doesn't naturally occur a lot? I don't know.
Strikes a certain nerve. I don't watch the news, or at least I try not to. And I'm now forever grateful for my parents never getting cable at home, because it'd probably be worse for me, I think. Because even when I'll be out and it's like, oh, did you hear this on the news? Like, nope, I didn't hear it. I don't want to hear it. More than likely, I don't want to hear it. More than likely, it's something negative. Someone died. Something happened. It's like, no. Why are you gonna put your subconscious through that torture?
Yeah.
Not only that, but I find it very hard to trust anything, like literally almost anything I hear about anything.
Sure.
Like when a CNN comes out with a statistic or whatever, like I'm just kind of like, I don't like statistics, man. Like I think they could, they're very easily manipulated, and I guess like part of that is like I gotta stop being so paranoid, and I gotta give someone the benefit of the doubt. But like how many times do we get a wrong statistic or a falsely reported story, or a biased news story, which is always. So it's like I don't feel like I can trust anything anymore. It's nuts.
Right.
The only news source that I actually will watch, only for a little bit though, because it gets kind of boring because it's not biased. But OWN News Network, it's like One America News. It's I don't know how many like cable providers or satellite providers like actually have it in their listing, but it's on AT&T Uverse, which is what I got at home. So and they literally do their stories like 5 sentences. Only facts, no opinions, we're out. That's it. Next story. So you'll get like 30 stories, like, a day or whatever from that, and it's just all factual. They tell you what you need to know, what happened. That's it. And then, of course, they have their programs where they have their opinion stuff come on or whatever. They have their TV personalities do their shindig about Donald Trump or about Hillary Clinton or whatever. But, yeah. Other than that, I don't trust shit.
Yeah. One thing that I get, and I'll probably get more, they'll probably like pull me from social media, which might be a good thing. But like I see a lot of local news, like how like Channel 4 and Channel 5, like they both have like the 1 minute news at this hour. Like they give you like one little update per, and like before you head out the door, by the way, someone crashed and died, and people don't realize that affects their day, because the last thing you heard before you left your home where you sleep every night is that someone died.
Man, that's depressing.
And exactly, it very much is. And because I don't watch the news enough, but when I do, that always happens. I'm like, that's terrible. Like, why are you leaving the people who work 8 to 5s? I think it's at least a contribution to why they're so depressed. Because they leave their house every morning at 7:30, and at 7:25 when that 1 minute little excerpt comes out, it's that, oh, there's a crash, oh, someone from jail did this, or someone did this, or did whatever, something negative. And so they walk out and they're in their car and they drive to work and they start their day. But that was the last thing they heard before they left their house.
It kind of freaks me out though when we see so much of it that we're numb to it. Like I'm completely numb to that. Like that won't affect me. At least I think. Like I'm just super numb to it.
Well, see, while I don't disagree, I'm just saying, but the thing is, your brain processes everything, so it's in your subconscious as soon as you hear it.
That's fair.
That's my only point. That's what I'm trying to make, is that it's there. Your brain processes all your senses. That's why you have 5 senses, right? So it processes everything, and until you die, until your brain stops functioning, your brain processes every single thing. So that's my only point. I feel at some point, if you do it every day and you leave your house every day around the same time because you watch that little excerpt every morning, that's build up. Imagine a person working 30 years, the same job, 8 to 5, watches the news every morning before they leave, during breakfast. And they say, oh, overnight news, So this person crashed. Oh, this person committed suicide. Oh, this person shot themselves. Oh, this person shot somebody.
There
And
was
now he's
another
on
mass
this-
shooting or another school shooting. Someone got an AR-15.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. That's my only point to this, like to this point of, or this part of the, you know, what we're talking about. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it does make an impact. I feel like it at some point, whether you think so or not, it stays there. You know, your brain retains everything, whether you remember it in your long term or short term memory. It's there forever,
That's fair.
and it won't get out. I mean, unless you think about it, of course, you know it won't get out. But I feel like I think about a lot of life issues a lot of the time. So like a lot of that stuff hits me. So when I do watch that one day that I wake up early, or that I'm up early, but I'm watching the news at that particular time, it's like, oh, it's like, man, turn it off. Like, why? You know, what's that gonna do for my day?
But again, like our generation is just so addicted to what calls my terms as outrage porn. I love that term. I can't get enough of that term.
What is
It's so accurate.
What?
You know, it's like just people want a new thing to happen so they can be outraged about something.
Okay.
And then
That's I'm like, what is your definition?
And then
I don't understand.
people want to hear like the next like crazy ass story that comes on the news because they want to go online and argue about it because it feeds to the ego and it feeds to the narcissism. And so you don't want to like, you know, post a political status online or whatever for the sake of people agreeing with you. Horse shit if you post for people to agree with you. You know, it's like, oh my God, people just like, they just want that debate. And then there's people that say like, oh, I want the debate because I want to see the perspective. Bullshit, because you're calling this other person that's disagreeing with you a little shit. You know,
Yeah,
like,
or racist or something. Something
oh,
like
yeah,
that. Something
horse
like
shit,
that.
man. You just want to fucking argue. Join the debate team. But I mean,
yeah.
you know, I mean, and I'm sure, like, you know, not every, that's a very, you know, like, harsh generalization. But, I mean, you know, take it if that applies to you. You know, if the shoe fits. Yeah. We're in Texas, if the boot fits.
Head over boots.
God bless. Okay, people, it's not that I hate that song, it's just we've heard it a lot now.
We've heard it again and again and again and again.
Let's hear new things. If we're on like the terms of music and talking about our generation and all this living that we're doing, Casey Musgrave's song, the one that hits me just like pulls the heartstrings, the "It Is What It Is."
Oh
yeah, oh my God.
That's from like her first record, record, right?
Such a great song about
Such
hookups.
a great girl.
Brian, bring up something. It doesn't have to be relevant. Just something that has got your curiosity. I mean, I know you've been doing like the
Yeah, like
the-
lately my mind's just kind of been on this
drop shipping
e-commerce
stuff. Yeah.
deal, and it's crazy to me how, like, I don't know what drives these people, because I've kind of, in my research, I've come upon videos by many different people, and a lot of these people make a full-time job out of it, and they're making like 6-figure salaries off of e-commerce and just basically either private labeling products or just reselling products. And I don't know, because these are all the majority of these people would fall under the millennial category. So I don't know if like I said, it's a generational thing, or what is that factor that it makes these people decide, I wanna do this for a living and stay home, or maybe they do it because they want a more flexible work schedule. And I've kind of been wondering why they do what they do, like what their driving force is. At least for me, wanting to get into this is just have another source of income, to later fund other business ventures, you know. I want to take small steps to get to that final goal.
Mm-hmm.
But these people, it looks like they're comfortable where they're at, and they just open up several stores, several online stores. Like they'll do one for one product, and they'll do another one for another product, and sometimes they do seasonal things, and they'll move on from one product to another, and but it's all e-commerce. And for me, I know it's not a permanent thing. It's, I want to just raise some money and move on.
Well, it's like we were talking about earlier, like doing things that you may not necessarily want to do, or maybe you enjoy it, maybe you don't, whatever, but all to get to the grander thing that you actually want to do.
Right.
Like, I'm like teaching and substitute teaching and teaching music lessons and anything and everything to make some extra cash. Move furniture, bar back, work venue security, even though I'm like the scrawniest 145-pound person ever. So it's like, but all for the grander, thing, which for me is to just be able to write songs that express my outlook on life that maybe other people will relate to, and we can just kind of, sing those songs every night and just have a connection with people. But, sorry, I went too far on that, but yeah.
No, you're good. I think that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's really loud.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking still wondering why these people do what they do. Is it a generational thing to want to not work for the man and just be your own boss and
I think that's relative now because our parents told us to do whatever.
Follow our dreams.
Yeah, follow your dreams, which came up with that Simon Sinek thing, whatever. But it's very much an us thing. I do wonder how that will affect the next generation. Like these kids that are in school right now.
I almost feel like, because when Eddie was talking about this earlier, I almost feel like it might just be a pattern. One generation or a couple generations aim for that safe, stable route, and then the following generations aim for a more, follow your dreams kind of throwing caution to the wind type of deal. And then the following wants to aim for a more stable lifestyle again. So will the generation after us see our generation as too out there, too risky, too
Well, risk adversity, I think is good. That's a good way to risky, like taking risk.
Yeah, so then they'll want to be more stable and find a secure lifestyle. And then the next one will be, I don't want to be secure, and then,
Yeah, where it just kind of comes back and
the
forth.
cycle just
That's
keeps
interesting.
happening.
Because I do think that, that actually kind of ties into what I was talking about. I've talked about this a little bit with you. I know I'm talking about Brian. As far as vocational schools coming back, and there's people that are investing right now, in a few years, that's gonna be the thing. Before it was college, and the crazy thing is that we caught the tail end of this college thing. You need a degree to get a job. By the time we got our degrees, everybody had a job. And now the thing is that because in general, millennials want the managerial positions, there's now no one to work the front lines. And that's why I think it's going to go back to vocational schools.
I think you're absolutely right. And that takes me all the way back to graduating high school. So for my parents, for our parents, from where we come from and all that, it's a big deal to graduate high school. It's just incredible for our parents and their generation if you graduated high school. Amazing. You're doing awesome. Good job, right? And then, so to my parents, it was a big deal as well that I graduated high school. To me, I was just I know I'm going to graduate. I mean, I'm not going to not graduate.
I know. It's what did you expect? I know. I definitely felt like that. Cause I think at some point me and Brian had to have talked about that. We're we graduated high school. It was oh my God, congrats. What else was I going to do?
Everyone
I went to
graduates
school every
high
day. We were in band or orchestra. We were doing extra things.
Right.
We were engaged. But then you get those. I mean, you get the kids, even millennials that they dropped out or whatever. That's still there. It's still very much a thing that when hopefully if they have kids and they go through high school, it's oh my God, mijito, great job. Good job for graduating high school. It's and their kids gonna be what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to graduate high school. You know, that's kind of like the thing, because a lot of these people that, you know, they have blue collar jobs that then work their life, and they now understand that, you know, they want their best for their kids. You know, that's when that cycle begins, I think.
Yeah.
So like, I know for my kid, you know, I want him to be the smartest kids and the smartest kid. It's depending that they can possibly be. Like, only they can choose. Like, if you can instill into them at a young age to just be their best. Like, right now we're starting a challenge at the exercise gym I work at, and it was like, oh, like it's great to have competition between each other, but I told them, like, if you beat yourself in a progressive way, you will win anyways. I'm like, that should be your goal. And then, you know, of course, like, half of them like, oh, you know, they probably think I'm full of crap and stuff, right? Which is fine. It's not a big deal, because the main thing is that it's a challenge between each other, blah blah. You know, it creates competition, which makes them want to in the end better themselves. But if you beat your scores this next time, then you're already doing better. Like, why? You know, I don't quite, you know, maybe I don't understand, but I don't understand going beyond that, like, you know, bettering yourself for you, you know, doing that.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're more than likely able to help others, you know, help them do better for themselves.
Well, I guess it's like it's necessary to draw like comparisons, though, right? I mean, to some extent, in a healthy extent. Like, I remember, so like Florida Georgia Line, and like, I mean, they're still around, but like back when like American Aquarium and the band American Aquarium from North Carolina, it's like really like, you know, they're really like huge in the Texas scene now and all that, and they're doing really well now. So I think this was like last year, a couple of years ago. So the dude from American Aquarium, the front man, BJ Barham, that's his name. He made this post, I guess, about like Florida Georgia Line, or like, you know, that he remembered when one time American Aquarium was playing in Florida, and that those dudes opened for him, and then now that, like, you know, look where Florida Georgia Line is now, right? They're like way beyond, like, as far as like popularity goes, like, I mean,
Mainstream popularity and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
like way bigger than American Aquarium, right? And I guess so he got some beef about that or whatever, and so he made this response post about, you know, he's like, you know, for people like calling me out that I'm jealous, he's like, yeah, I did. Of course I'm jealous. Like every, you know, band wants that success that they have. Like, you know, it's like you can't help but look at that and want that for yourself. Like, that's a healthy, you know, necessary part of jealousy,
Right.
And competition that you need, you know, to be able to, you know, get better or have the motivation to be better, right? So, but I guess with that being said, you know, it goes back to the only person you need to be better than was the one you were yesterday.
Yes.
So, you know, I guess in the end, like, you need that surrounding competition. But as long as you're bettering yourself, I mean, the competition doesn't really matter.
And sometimes it's competition that forces you to be better than yourself.
Yeah.
So I think I don't want this to sound like wrong, but sometimes, like, I do believe that in some situations there's a necessary evil. And I say that because, like,
Donald Trump. Just kidding.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, sometimes it's that necessary evil that pushes you further, or that makes you realize, hey, like, I hate my job. I need to do something else, or, you know, whatever it may be, depending on the situation. So, not that competition is an evil at all, but, you know, sometimes you need that push to better yourself, and if it's not coming from inside, then it's an external factor that's gonna get that done.
Yeah. The good things aren't very good without the bad.
Yeah.
Can't have God without the devil. Can't have devil without God. Kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing.
Going back to Andy's favorite word of dichotomy.
Yeah, it's the ultimate dichotomy. If you can beat yourself first, like beat who you were yesterday first, and then let the competition around you be second, I think that's a better priority list than the other way around.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
That's so tough. Like, I'd say it's tough because of the people that we know, that we talk to, we interact, older or younger or our age, that they're not there yet, and you hope that they don't take too long to figure certain things out. Not everything out. No, you never figure everything out, but you figure certain things out at hopefully earlier times than not.
The sooner the better. That's for sure.
Do you guys ever wonder if this whole millennial thing isn't really a different thing?
Is there any possibility that it is a different thing? Because I mean, like, what has not been done? You know, like, if you're gonna go off of that thought, it's like, okay, well, we had the baby boomers, and then the hippies, and then back to whatever the next thing was.
It'll be the 80s. After the hippies,
Well, like,
back to the 80s. You go back into the 80s, it's kind of like the mesh. It's the disco era. It's all that stuff. Just
Yeah, like
experimentation.
is the only difference that that just that technology is way more involved now in our lives, and that we happen to grow up during the new millennium. But other than that, like,
Right, because it's like...
have we all, have we been...
Yeah, because why is it Generation X, Y, and Z, and then Millennials?
I don't know.
Just because we grew up through the
And
new
then
millennium.
we ran out of letters? Where's A through whatever it is before X?
We're doing a podcast about millennials, and we don't know the categories. I'm like stuck on baby boomers and hippies, and I got nothing
Oh, yeah,
else.
no. Oh, I'm saying... Oh, I know, yeah, right. But I'm saying as far as... like Generation A, why is there no Generation A? Why is there no Generation B? Why is it X, Y, and Z? Like, why is it the end of the alphabet? I maybe we could do more. I'll do research and bring that back next week. But I didn't think about it till right now. I'm like, wait a minute, it's only X, Y, and Z. Why? How did whoever created X and Y and Z come about? Starting with X, like the X Gen, whatever that is. And it's like,
Gen X.
It's like, well, where's A through whatever that is? W.
Maybe it's, maybe the millennial generation gets so much shit because we're, I guess, caught in our 20s now, right? And so we're...
Well, okay, go ahead.
I mean, like, okay, where are we getting all the shit from? We're getting it from older generations, right? But there's so much more experience than us. And there's so much more, like, wiser than us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More wise, more wiser. I don't know if that grammatically makes sense.
They're wiser
Yeah.
through time, because of time.
Because of time and experience that we don't have that they do. So, and yet we get all, the negative fuss from them about us, and then it's like, well, man, we're all just here, we're all learning, we're all just trying to make the best of it. So,
Yeah.
we're trying to deal with what we got,
And who's to say that won't happen with the next generation? We'll be the ones criticizing them.
And in some sense, I kind of already am that person, because then I see when we like substituting middle schools and elementary schools, like these kids have like iPhones and like Snapchats, and it's like, what the hell are we raising? You know?
I am scared. I see these 8th graders, 7th graders, and the way they talk too. I'm not talking about profanity. I'm talking about what they're thinking and their thought processes to certain things. That I'm like, dear Lord, what is going to happen next?
Well, even like, okay, so Brian, you've been bringing up technology a lot. Like, one thing I noticed the other day when I was subbing for a 3rd grade class, I took them to the library for the last part of the day, as it was set to do on my schedule. And so we're at the library, and it's a library in an elementary school, pre-K through 5.
Right.
And this library has iPads in it, where the kids go and like log into and like search for books, get information on the book or whatever, and then they take their AR tests on iPads now. And they all know how to work it. I mean, obviously, right? Like, they all know how to work it and get around it. They know how to troubleshoot when something goes wrong. They know how to like fix a problem like better than I would. Like, it scares me. But we're saying like we grew up with technology. It's like, do we really like, we grew up with the advancement of it, like, it exponentially just advanced on us really fast. And for them, they're just kind of like, you're like born and you know what the internet is. You know, like it's nuts.
Well, that's because we're the first generation to like live through the creation of the technology and the internet.
Yeah, like even like my younger brother, who's fixing to graduate high school now, we were talking about this the other day, he has no recollection of what dial-up internet is. And I'm just like, dude, how do you not have recollection of dial-up? And he was like, I don't know, I only remember having Wi-Fi. And I was like, you're nuts, man. There was a time where if you wanted to get on the internet, like, that was, like, that's your afternoon. Like,
Get off the phone.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. It's crazy to think about where it's going to go, man. And, like, okay, so I got a lot of beef for this. So doing the substitute certification thing, and then we did that, and then you get all the way to the application, which is another just heap of an advancement. And it takes forever, and then we finally get hired by the school board, and then you have to attend an in-service that's not till like the next couple of months. And then so went to that in-service, right, for the school district, and so they're showing us how to log into the system and whatever. And the lady's explaining it. She's like, well, before you start typing in your username and your password to log in, you have to click the box next to the word that says "I'm not a robot." And then she like does it, and then like she has to and then you have to like answer like this question or whatever, highlight the pictures shown below that aren't like store signs or whatever. And she's like kind of like jokingly said, she's like, I don't know why they make you do this. It's so dumb. Does anyone know why they make you do this? And I raise my hand, and she's like, why does it happen? I go, to make sure you're not a robot. And and everyone has a good laugh because the box says click here if you're not a robot or whatever. And so everyone has a good laugh. And then I was like, okay, yeah, funny, but seriously, it's like to make sure that you're not artificial intelligence, because that's an actual problem that we are potentially going to have.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna have just a matter of time of how and when. That's what it is. But and the reason why I haven't done research on it because it pretty much scares me too, because I'm it's just a new thing that we're gonna have to deal with when we get older. But I want to bring it up because I haven't listened to it yet, but Sam Harris has a podcast about AI. And like I said, I haven't gotten into it, but like you're very much right. It's like because to make sure you're not a robot, and like I said, everybody laughs, but like no, like it's a very real thing. It's already developed. It's just not out in the public eye. It's not a mainstream thing yet because there's not enough development yet.
No, I think it's super scary because I don't know if you guys ever heard about that. I forgot what the name was. It was like some AI bot that Microsoft put on Twitter. I think it was Microsoft that put on Twitter, and that the bot was learning from everybody and anybody that was like interacting with it on Twitter. So it would respond to you, like if you sent in a question or something, right, and you tagged that bot, it would reply to you, and it was almost seamless. Like it could be any other person because it would use like our slang and it knew what was like trending and stuff like that. So it was like a person. And the problem with that bot ended up being that it was starting to say some really messed up stuff, like racist things, and it was, I honestly I don't remember the exact like tweet or tweets, but it was to the point where I think to the severity that it said something like you need to go kill yourself type of deal. So it's scary to think that like artificial intelligence is learning from us, and
that's what it's getting out of it.
Yeah, and that was when I read that, and when I heard about it. It was to me it was literally like scary. I was scared for what could happen. So then they disconnected the bot, they put it offline or whatever. But it was some crazy shit. Like,
well, how do you think God potentially felt when Adam and Eve sinned? Or when Lucifer was like, nah, man, fuck you, I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess, some kind of parallel. Probably not the best analogy.
No, but there's parallels. And that's also another point that I have is like, there's a lot of things that are similar. It's just done a different way. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. Like, I think we kind of brought that. Well, Andy, you brought it up kind of earlier when you said that there's like always, different perspectives, different options. And I kind of don't want to get into it, but I think about it every once in a while about like multiple like universes.
Love that.
Yeah, like I don't like getting into it because I don't like, it's just too big for me to want to think about.
I want to get into it.
Oh man. So
you mentioned that yesterday, so
I mentioned this last night at the bar.
Oh, well, because I think about it like every so often, but I stop myself because I just think like how, like why, like it's too much for me to want to comprehend right now, and yeah, so I hardly ever dive too deep into it because
there's a video I posted to my Facebook that no one liked at all. that explains, how we get from one dimension to the next. And I can't remember if it's the 10th or the 11th dimension or which one we can only go up to, but we can only imagine so far a dimension, and then after that it's like we don't know what comes after that. I think that's what scares me more than anything else. Just because it's like, we only know so much. Like, we only know that we can hop back and forth between other universes. That's the biggest possibility. What comes after that? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's scary to think about, because what if there is? I mean, it's possible that there isn't, but what if there is? There's more to that than we don't know, or can even imagine.
Well, and at that point, does it affect us if we can't imagine it? If
Maybe
we
not.
Can't go.
Well, it comes back to the instant gratification. We want to know the why or the how. So like, let's say we can't find out, but because we can't find out, it bothers us psychologically. Because we would rather know, because pretty much everything else we can Google and we can find, and that's the answer.
I don't know, but if there's other variations of me and my lifetime, I'm super curious.
Right? Like, you want to find out about the part
Yes.
where you become a police officer?
Yeah. Yeah. That's super. That's why I don't think about it, because there's just so many possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of beyond what I could come up with. So
Man, there's an alternate timeline where I'm actually a successful musician. That's nuts. There's another timeline where we're not millennials.
Yeah.
yeah. Could you imagine a timeline where the Roman Empire didn't fall?
Wow.
What would that be like?
Or what's the other one? Genghis Khan? Or what's the one that that ruled even more?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
if
think
it's
it's Genghis
Rome.
Khan, but
Probably.
Could be.
the one that they say is like responsible for populating like a third of the earth or something like that. Some cool
I
statistic.
think it is Genghis
Yeah.
Khan.
All right, people
Thing.
on the internet, research it, tag us. Well, check it out.
Man, but I like to think about the universe and how like all that works, and it's infinite, and it blows my mind, and it just like it's a good healthy reminder for me that you just gotta go after whatever you want to do and not waste time doing what you don't want to do. Like if you're not happy, do something about it,
Yeah.
because we're so insignificant. We're only here for a little bit, and then it's just nothing. So might as well make the best of it, man, while being good to other people.
So, are we, I mean, not us personally, but like generally as a human race, are we in the wrong for wanting to explore what's beyond our planet?
Oh no, I think it's necessary.
Because if we're so insignificant, why don't we just worry about our own planet?
I wish we did more than we do.
And maybe the
That's like-
fact that we've
that's
been
the-
that we've been like neglecting it is forcing us to look beyond.
That's the hippiest thing I think I've ever said, been a part of in a while.
What if? Because as probable as everything else is, this is just as probable that we're the only human race right now. Like, period.
Oh yeah, because so I took astronomy in college, and you go over the Drake equation or formula. I don't know what it is, but basically a formula that figures how many other civilizations or intelligent civilizations there are out there based on the stars and the solar systems and galaxies. But the one thing it doesn't account for is time. So what if there are other intelligent civilizations out there before us or after us, and right now we're the only one right now.
Right.
So I think when I heard that, when my professor brought that up, I thought that was super interesting. It's like, what if what we're looking for isn't there yet, or what if we've already missed it? I thought I was
Yeah.
like, damn it, like the timing,
But that's my only point. Is to that is the fact that what if we're the only humans right now? I'm not arguing the past. I'm not arguing the future. I'm talking about right now, here, sitting down, doing this podcast, and then people are out, whatever, doing partying tonight, Saturday night. They're doing whatever they want to do.
No judgment.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like just here now. That's my only statement. It's not an argument. It's a statement. Like, no, there's multiple people. Okay, chill out. We're good.
I love it when it brings up the religion thing, because it definitely it kind of comes up hand in hand almost when you talk about that kind of thing, right, with the universe and ever expanding. I love what my brother totally put me in place the other day, because I was kind of joking around, and I was just like, man, like with all this like stuff we know now, like how can there be a God? And he's like, well, prove to me that there isn't one. And I was like, prove to me there is one. He's like, prove to me there isn't one. And it's like we know and still don't know so much that you can't rule out that possibility.
That's my only I agree with your brother, because I've had that conversation too, and I'm like, fine, but you can't tell me there's not one.
Yeah.
There's no proof either way. Well, we just went through 3 hours.
We did.
And it wasn't that hard.
It really wasn't. I totally understand now how how guests on the Joe Rogan Experience like, oh no way, that was fast.
Yeah.
I get that.
Well, I suppose we'll sign off now. Millennials swinging with